know if y'all have started that project.
Live and we can go whenever you want. For some reason, that thing's not working.
Oh, okay, good. Good morning. Well, we're right at 10. Welcome to actually what has become sort of a bi-monthly morning discussion session. We do those between 10 and 12. And today we have about 6 different items, sort of presentations where they're a little more leisurely than our regular meetings and more informal. So, in fact, Mr. Kent, are we missing some folks?
Yeah.
I thought I heard a couple.
Well, I walked down the hallway and didn't see him. Go ahead and keep going. I'll go do a recon mission.
That's good. I actually thought I heard some of the conversations with folks. I'll just mention the 6 items, and then we may just go ahead and get started. But we're going to hear from the sheriff first. Is going to talk about some particular sheriff's office technology. We're going to hear the periodic updates for Forsyth Tech Community College with Dr. Spriggs, and we're going to hear a Winston Forsyth County Schools update from Trish McManus. And we're going to have a planning and services update, Chris Murphy, kind of from the planning department, a little comprehensive. We're going to hear a partners behavioral health update from Jackie Copeland, and our own Aisha Carter and Kimberly Price Shore are going to talk to her about our ARPA sort of projects update. We just submitted a big quarter report in January and an update on all the projects that we have out from 2 different rounds. I think, Sheriff, why don't you just come up and get started? We can get going.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Mr. Hunt, Daniels, Mr. Linville. I appreciate you all giving me this opportunity to come before you this morning. I thank you for all that you do for the sheriff's office, for the people of this county.
Commissioner Plyler is on his way.
I'll hold up, sir, if you like for me to.
That's
Whatever
probably,
you like.
that's
Yes,
kind.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Plowder. How you doing, sir?
This is what I think it is. I feel better than 2 years. I still think it was 5 years.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Your color works.
Welcome, Dave. Have a seat.
Good to be with you.
You're good. You're great.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty, Sheriff. We can.
Again, I thank you all for allowing me to be here this morning to share with you some of the things we have going on and some of the things that we're asking for. I know that money's always a touchy situation when I come before the board. I understand that, but I just hope that your hearts are open and your pockets as well. What I want to talk about was some of the technology that we're asking for, just simple technology. We're asking for the Exxon Live. Most of you are familiar with what took place in Tennessee with Trey Nichols. There's technology out there that prevents that. It's called Exxon Live. Basically what that means, anytime our cameras go live, we see it in the Arctic and we see it in communications, and the command staff sees it on their phone. So for an example, excuse me, I apologize, I've been up all night with the homicides and Clemens. Anytime the cameras go live,
Like some water.
thank you so much.
That's good water from the Yadkin River.
Yeah, it's been a long night. As I was saying, anytime the cameras go live, Axon Live, it is seen inside of the Arctic. It is seen on the command staff's phone. It is seen in communications. So in a situation where our deputy stops someone and the cameras go live, we see it in real time, in connection with the real-time intelligence center, in connection with the 911 center, in connection with the command staff or whoever we deem to carry on their phones, even you if you wanted to see it. So an event like that, we would have the ability to click the mic, 1010 would stop, cease to exist. That's technology that exists now. It has been out there for a while. Of course, it is pricey. It's about $100,000 a year to have that technology added to what we have. I'm coming to you asking you for that. There are several things in the upcoming budget that I'm asking for. As I say many a times, the things that I ask for is not to say that we have them, but is to provide a better service to the community. Some of the things that I have been asking for, we should have had years ago. We just didn't see the need for them, or we didn't see it as a priority. So I just spoke with Mr. Watts. He and I have been talking back and forth, and I asked for time to be in front of you. You know, what I will say to you is that the things that I've asked you for, we've made good on them. The things that you have blessed us with and you saw fit to take a chance on us, the commissioners, chairman, and you saw fit to take a chance, and we have given great returns on that. The Real-Time Intelligence Center, I was pleased that my county manager said that he wasn't a believer in it, but he's a believer in it now. I'm grateful for kind of turning him around. I'm grateful for the chance that you took on the JIT unit, the numbers that they're doing and the great service that they're doing in the community. We're probably going to run out of money in terms of the overtime because we're spending time in the city. That's another conversation for another day, a formula that we need to fix, how we're going to be compensated from the city or something, because we're spending, that's another conversation. But I stopped by today to ask you to please, when you see the budget this upcoming year, when you see that notation for the technology, that's what we're asking for it to tie it in to the Real-Time Intelligence Center. Because this morning we're going to have a demonstration. They're coming in from, I forget where they're coming in from, at 1 o'clock to basically walk us through what it's going to cost us to add to the contract. I think that I spoke with Mr. Watts about it, and I'm going to need board approval on it. I don't know no other way to say it other than that. I need you, and I'm asking for your support on it. It is truly a game changer. It's a game changer because it's an added extra safety valve to keep a Trey Nichols from happening here. If they had that in Tennessee, that would have never happened. Because the moment the cameras goes live, it is viewed in the Arctic, it's viewed in communications, and the command staff, the watch commander, sees it as it is happening. It's not something you see after the fact. That's just one of the things I did. Just want to get out of your way. I had a few things for you to maybe look at while you're watching TV tomorrow or something. Dr. Martin, just some of the things that we have highlighted that we would like for you to consider. But I just want to leave them with you as I get out of here and get back to work. Any questions that you may have from me? Good morning, Commissioner Bessie. Thank you, sir. So any questions you have for me before I give you this? I don't want to take much of your time.
I've got one just sort of big overarching question.
Yes, sir.
But I mean, there's no question the Real-Time Center, the capabilities of technology are vast. But the question I've got is that basically a whole lot of what the city has in their Real-Time Center and a whole lot of what you have in the Sheriff's Office Center is duplicative. And I guess I have just this issue of double funding, basically two substantial contracts, probably both contracts in excess of $1.5 million, probably, both of them. And it would seem to me that in the spirit, we got a new chief, and in the spirit of kind of going looking ahead, I've kind of mentioned this a couple times before, but it seems to me the time is now that there's some joining together of all that technology and merging it into a single contract. So if you got the business folks coming down today to show you and demonstrate and talk about your contract, I think the issue ought to be talking to some about what would happen if you combined the centers into a single contract. And I would ask them if you can't have a single contract with two locations for that matter. I mean, there ought to be a way to figure this out, because I just think it's crazy for the city taxpayer, and they're paying twice for this center. They're paying as a county taxpayer and as a city taxpayer for the same technology, right?
Yes, sir.
So is there not some way to think about sort of, you could save enough money in that project to get your expansion, your 100,000 expansion, and have some left over?
I love that line of thought. Here's one problem with that. The city is a different entity from the county. So we've had this conversation before, and I love that line of thought. But until they're under the same umbrella, we're going to have that issue. So for an example, the knowledge that I have that my neighbor is my neighbor, but my neighbor has his own lawnmower. I can't walk to my neighbor's house and say, let me use your lawnmower when I want to. We probably could save money if we had the same lawnmower. But the problem with that theory is that my neighbor wants his own lawnmower because it's his lawnmower. The city wants their own real-time intelligence center, and they want to control that. And so the county, which I see as the big brother, should have its own system. The county should have its own system until some people or the powers that be decide they're going to merge these law enforcement entities into one. Because under that same line of thought, Dr. Martin, here's this. We're working inside of the city. Under that same line of thought, I could say, well, why don't we take our resources from the city and go back to the county? But I can't do that because under my line of thought is that I've got to be able to serve the citizens of this community. So I can't try to worry about what Winston has over there. My focus is I've got to position myself, this agency, this county to do what is best. Because I don't know what the city council is going to vote on to fund. I have no control over that. And then the problem with that thought is that while I'm the sheriff today and he's the chief today, a new sheriff could come in whenever and decide, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. That took place with the task force years ago. So it's like God bless the child that has his own. And so I get what you're saying from a economic standpoint. I get that. But the problem with that is that the city is a different entity and controlled by totally different things.
I understand that, and so if I hear what you're saying, then we need to be going and talking to our city counterparts and see if we can't do that. We have all kind of interlocal agreements with the city where we jointly pay for services. Planning and zoning, Ms. Chris Murphy here. I mean, but it's a joint project. The city pays for half, the county pays for half. The city houses it, so and that kind of in their facilities, and they're compensated in that regard. But we have many complex joint projects, and I believe we can probably figure out a way to share that lawnmower. Probably.
I would love for you to figure out how to share that lawnmower.
So you would like to do that. I just want to have that on record that you would like to see us do that.
Can I put some stipulations to it? I would love to have that stipulation if I own the lawnmower, if I control the lawnmower. Because, and I say that because here's why I say that. Here's why I say that, Dr. Martin. Because if you go and study the interlocal agreement with the task force, there's a percentage of who gets what. There's always a control factor. You know, that's a control factor with the city and the county. There's always that control factor. So I would love to go into an interlocal agreement if we can agree that the county will control or have the majority say in that, because if not, you know, this thing about equal, that's a play on words. What's equal? Where is it going to sit at? Who's going to control it? Who's going to house it? Who's going to fund it? You know, are we going to fund it equally? You know, it's like almost like the thing we got working in the neighborhoods now. You know, are we going to do 50-50? There's so many unknowns. But until we get there, Dr. Martin, what I'm asking you for, until we get to that place, I'm just asking for your support, because that could be years down the road. I'm just asking for it now.
I hear you, Sheriff. Thank you.
I appreciate you.
I will say that I've been on this board for, it's hard to believe, it's almost 30 years. And we've had this conversation for almost 30 years. And the result has been the sheriff has had equipment that he needed, but not all of the equipment, not all the material he needs to run the sheriff's department the way he wants to. So I look kindly on what you're saying, because this is not a new argument. It's just the continuation of something that we've been talking about for years. The question is, when will the two get together? And that's part of our responsibility. And we've talked about that, but we've never really done it. And as our chairman said, there are interlocal agreements, and we understand that. But we're talking about law enforcement, and in that case, life and death in many cases. So I've got to say that, you know, I'd be willing to give you whatever you need to get the job done. And in the meantime, make doggone sure that somehow or another we get the city to the table and we go to the table and talk about the problems, needs, and interests of the two entities. But I appreciate your being in here.
Thank you. That's why I really appreciate it. I would love for that to happen, Dr. Martin. Me and the police department, we get along great. Matter of fact, they was out with us last night in Clemens, 16-year-old kid killed. We work great with the city of Winston, but the powers that be, the commissioners, the city council, you guys control the funding. You guys control the board. We're just pawns on the board. And so if you guys can conclude how you want that to work, that's fine. I'm just telling you what is needed to ensure a better product, to ensure what I feel that will enhance, good morning, Commissioner Woodbury, what I feel that will enhance this community. So when I look at it, I can't look at it as if we were one or the city has this and we have that. Because if you think about it, we had the Arctic before the city ever thought about an Arctic. We've had a lot of things that they have piggybacked off of what we had. And I get what you're saying, and I understand it from an economic standpoint. But until we come to where we're in one house, I don't want to share my lawnmower.
Any other questions for the sheriff?
Yes, Chairman, I do. Hi, Lord Sheriff Kimbrough. Thank you for
morning.
being here
Thank
today.
you.
And I love the idea of having the Exxon Live Arctic. What I will ask, though, because the district that you serve is District A, and most of this activity is happening out of that, I would love to kind of see how that is manifested, if they would allow us to be a part of that today or schedule some other time for us to come in so that we can see. I'm hopeful because I came to a gun violence event where Chief Penn spoke and talked about how he was very intentional in terms of hiring police officers, and that it took so long to hire police officers so that we won't have this same situation manifest here in Forsyth County. So I'm willing to definitely support that, but I just need to look at the ins and outs the same way that we did with the real time. I'd like to do that. And then also, lastly, with the summary, even though I know that's indicated drafted on here, if somebody can just go back and put some figures on here for me, that would be helpful.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's all that I had. Thank you for your service.
I'll be glad to, and I'll get with Ashley to set up to see what they come back and give you a demonstration. Hopefully, the demonstration I can give you will be the one that we have, and you can see it as it is operating in our county. But I will see when it's a good time that they can come back and demonstrate to you how it actually works. It is an amazing system. I've seen it, and it is truly a game changer. But
Chairman Martin, I'm sorry I don't have any questions. Of course, as everyone know, in this county, I'm a full-time working person, so I got here as soon as I could. But I appreciate you coming over this morning and sharing what you think is going to be optimal in order to make sure that the citizens of Forsyth County are safe, and especially in this day and time, that you are very considerate of, doing what you have to do to make sure that we all exist in a safe community. So whatever I've missed, I would be definitely willing to come over to your office and get more information so that I don't belabor the meeting.
I appreciate that. I want to thank you all for allowing me to be here this morning. I didn't mean to take up too much of your time. Have a good day, and thank you.
Sheriff?
Thank you, Sheriff.
Sheriff, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Sheriff. Sorry.
Sorry.
Commissioner Bessie's got one quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, yes. Now, my understanding is that neither the Sheriff's Department nor the Police Department have this system in place currently. Is that correct?
As a matter of fact, nobody in the state has this system yet.
Okay. So we would be, whoever does this would be standing it up from scratch.
Yes, sir.
All right. This is fairly early in the city's budgeting process as well. Have you had a chance to talk with Chief Penn about whether he would be interested in simultaneously proposing a system to the city?
So when I first saw the system, I talked to Chief Penn, well, I talked to Assistant Chief Penn then about it's a system that we should look at getting. And I told him that I had spoken with Randy, and I spoke with Mr. Watts, and I told Randy to find the money however he could, and then I had talked with my favorite county manager and told him what I was trying to do, and I needed his support on it, because it's not something that you can wait on. I don't think it's one of those things that you should wait on. And so I told Chief Penn that I was going to go forward with it to see could we get it. As a matter of fact, I told him that he was welcome to come today to meet with the Axon rep to talk about how we could get it done. So he said he would go through his channel and do what he had to do, and I told him that I was going through the process to try to get it. My hope is to have it up and running about the middle of March. That's my hope and my prayer, is to have the system running in March.
Thank you.
Anything else? I am a little confused with your last comment. I thought this was kind of looking ahead at like next year's budget.
It is.
So where is this? You said this is another $100,000. Do you have $100,000 to take care of this, and then you're hoping we'll pick it up? Is that what you're saying?
So that's about what I'm saying. I'm
That's
trying
what
to
I
figure
thought.
out where can I get the money from now to get it running. So I've asked Randy to look at, say again? Right, and we're getting a free few months trial on it as well. And so in the upcoming budget, I'm definitely going to be back asking you for it, but they're giving us a few months free trial of it.
A contractual commitment will require the board to act. So if they can give us a free trial without a contractual commitment, but ultimately the contractual commitment will be in front of you.
May I ask, do we know what the annualized budget impact would be of keeping the system up and operating on a 12-month basis?
I think this new, if I heard you, Sheriff, the new technology is $100,000 a year, every year.
All right. Thank you.
I think.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Mr. President.
All right. All righty, we're ready for our next item is the Forsyth Tech Community College FDCC update, and always a pleasure to have Dr. Spriggs here.
Good morning.
Appreciate the work you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I had a lesson from Ashley on this technology before the meeting, and let me see if that lesson worked. And I can get back to it again. Let's see. There it is. I just need to get back to the beginning of this presentation. My apologies for not being the best technological worker this morning. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for the opportunity to come before you to provide a quarterly report about the great work and the great things that your community college is doing. I want to start with a few updates about capital projects, because these are the projects that the county funds for the community college, and I want to make sure that you are always up to date on where we are, what the status is of our current projects. We have 3 current projects that I will be talking to you about today. The first is the Robert L. Strickland Phase 3 of Forsyth County Construction Bonds, the project that we will be having a ceremonial groundbreaking, even though we're really not breaking ground. We're going to be tearing down walls and putting up walls in a building that already exists. But we have that ceremony planned for February 21st at 10 a.m. I think you've received an invitation, and I hope that many or all of you will be able to join us. This is the general contractor is under agreement with us now on this project. As you will recall, this has taken us some time. We had some issues with the architect and made a decision to change architects. We are now doing this as CM at Risk project. So we have our contractor deployed. The work has already begun. We're basically dividing this into 14 separate areas of work within the building, and we're doing that because our contractor and architect working with our team has advised us that this is the best way that we can get many of these components up and running much sooner. So by phasing the project this way, many of the services and the pieces of the building renovation that we need to be up and running as quickly as possible will be up and running as quickly as possible while we complete the rest of the work. We have also added into this project, using contingency funds that we had available, updates to the lobby in Strickland Center. We are basically turning this building, the front part of this building, into a one-stop for our students. So students will be able to come into one location on our campus. They will be able to apply, register, get all the support they need for financial aid, anything at all that they need to be a student and be a successful student in this one building. So all of that work is happening now. It will take us 540 days, is the estimate from the contractor, for all 14 phases, but a large part of the work will be completed by the end of this year, and especially the work that provides those one-stop services for students. Another important component in this building is the simulated hospital environment that we're very excited about. We'll have a special tour of that for you once it's completed, but this will allow all of our health sciences students to come together and work in a simulated environment for real-life experience while they are matriculating in their programs. In addition, the next project that I'll talk about is the Learning Commons project, again funded with Forsyth County bonds. This was the last project on our list with Forsyth County bond funding. It is in preliminary design phase right now with our architect, Morris Berg. They have initiated site plan design, and we're working through that now. While they are doing that, they are also concurrently building in the program process. So we're working in tandem to finalize the location of the building, the specific aspects of that, while we're working with our faculty and staff on the programming design. And that project is slated to be completed by the end of next year, the beginning of 2025. Transportation addition, this is still in design. We are working with Walter Robbs Architects on that. They have completed largely the design development, which is the DD phase of this project. As you all know, we have to go through state construction, and that process has been a little slow, but we're still waiting for them to get back to us on approving those documents. And we do have an increased cost estimate. So we are looking at ways that we can handle that increase in cost. Essentially, as you all know, inflation has really created a problem, and so everything is coming in a little bit higher, but we do have dollars coming from the state that we believe we can put towards that shortfall, and we will be able to come in and get the work that we intended to do. We will be able to afford to do it. So I'll continue to update you on the progress of that as it moves through state construction and as we have those final estimates on cost. I'm going to move to my next slide, I hope. There we go. I want to update you a little bit on our HERF expenditures. HERF was the federal stimulus money that the college received. And the reason that I thought that would be particularly important for you to see is because it was a lot of money that the college had that we were able to invest in our college as well as in our students. And I wanted to share that with you to show you how we used a strategic approach to be able to invest that money wisely. Some of that investment actually benefits the county because we were able to do some things with that money that we would not have to come back to you and ask for funding for. So about a little over $14 million of our HERF money went directly to students for student aid. That was one of the biggest requirements for the funding, and we were very pleased to be able to continue to provide that aid for our students. In just a moment, you'll see my enrollment report, and you'll understand even more importantly, I think, why that was so important for us. But a little over $14 million for student aid. We had lost revenue that we were able to pull down of $2.5 million. That is important to us because it was actually calculated in how much money we lost in tuition and fees when our students did not come back during COVID, or when they left during COVID, and then it took us 2 years to get them back. And so that money, once we declared it as lost revenue, was able to be moved into the college's reserve funds. And that is going to be really important for us over the next 2 years as we continue to use it primarily for student aid, to be able to keep our students moving forward now that we've been able to get them back. So a little bit more about that when I do my enrollment report as well. Hardware, we were able to spend almost $2.5 million buying computers and other hardware, as well as tablets and monitors for our students, as well as for the college. So we upfitted our labs. We were able to do Wi-Fi expansions, all things that typically the Wi-Fi expansion particularly would have been a county expense. And so most of the money that we spent here is money that we did not have to come to you for, it's infrastructure dollars, which we're very grateful for. We were able to increase faculty development, particularly for the 600 to 800 adjunct faculty that we use each year. That was very needed to make sure that the quality instruction in the classroom is the same, whether it's a full-time instructor teaching the class or a part-time instructor teaching the class. And here's our Wi-Fi upgrade. So that amount that I gave you before didn't include that. It was almost $1.4 million that we used to upgrade the Wi-Fi on all of our campuses. This allows for our students and for the college to be able to deliver the instruction virtually and our students to be able to create it or to experience it virtually. And then we spent $1.1 million on safety, cleaning, and remodeling. And all of that money is money that typically would be a county expense. So again, I'm thankful that we had that and we're able to save some money for our county. All in total, you can see here the distribution of how we spent it. A large part of it was spent in that software area and in the student aid area. We had some payroll money that was included because we were able to hire, for example, counselors and advisors to help us get our students back. We were able to hire instructional designers to help us build our online classes and reconstruct our online classes for the environment that we were having to deal with as a result of COVID. Oops. Let's see if I can find there we go. I also want to share a little bit about some grants that we have because these grants are going to significantly impact the way we are able to support our students and also how we partner with our K-12 system here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth County. The first grant that you see here is $1.4 million. That's a federal grant, and it's the Upward Bound grant. This is going to help us prepare students at Glenn High School, federal money to support the college's efforts to basically help our high school students earn their high school diplomas and attend college. So essentially it's in partnership with the K-12 system. We will have counselors and other staff members working to create a college-going culture for low-income students and first-generation students and students who may not otherwise see college as part of their future. It's a United States Department of Education grant, and it is designed, and I'll quote from the grant itself, to provide opportunities for participants to succeed in their pre-college performance and ultimately in their higher education pursuits. Very excited about this opportunity. We think it'll be a game changer for students, and we will continue to let you know the results of that work. C-Campus is another grant that allows us to provide support for daycare for our students. That is one of the biggest needs for so many of our working adults, and this money is almost $1.5 million. It allows us to have on-campus childcare for our students, as well as to support our students in other ways with childcare needs. The Expanding Community College Grant is a grant from the North Carolina Community College System for almost $100,000. That's going to help us expand our LPN, Licensed Practical Nursing Program, to RN transition programs. More nurses who can start out as licensed practical nurses and then transition into a program that helps them earn their RN. We have 1 year of funding for that. They awarded this money not just for these types of programs, but for a variety of programs to 52 of the 58 community colleges. We also received $144,000 from the Governor's Crime Commission. This helps us fund our law enforcement continuing education. We provide that training for all of our law enforcement agencies, and it's critically and vitally important. And so we're very excited to have this additional money to help support those efforts.
Before you leave that slide, could I
Yes,
just ask
yes,
a quick
sir.
question? In terms of finding, just like I commend you with the LP and going to RN transition program, how are you doing in finding staff to teach in that program?
That has been a challenge. We, especially after COVID, because the hospital systems are losing their nurses particularly, but also they have a shortage of all of their non-doctor positions. So radiography technicians, cath lab technicians, all those shortages are impacting our ability to find faculty. And also they have, in some cases, taken our faculty because they can pay a lot more than we can. So it's been a problem. We have had very intense and transformative meetings with both of the large healthcare providers. We invited them to our campus. Dr. Freshlog came from Atrium Wake Forest Baptist Health with her senior team and her practitioners, and I had my senior team there. We also had Novant Health bring their team, and we are working on creative solutions. How can we work together? Because if you take the faculty, I can't teach the students. And a big need that they have is for us to expand the number of students. Right now, we have 2 cohorts of registered nurses that we graduate each year, one in the spring and one in the fall, with 63 nurses. That's our capacity. They want us to do much more than that. And in fact, this program that I just mentioned to you helps us put 52 more nurses into that RN pipeline, but we still need more. And so we're working on partnership ideas and ways that we can not compete with each other, because if we don't get those nurses for them, the problem just continues to get worse. Did that answer your question?
Yes, will they help you loan you some of their people? I mean, I'm looking at some, you talk about partnerships.
Right.
Seems to me some folks that could
Yeah.
do a little part-time sabbatical or team teach or coach,
Yeah.
where they're only missing because they have a lot of rotating shifts.
Yeah.
Opportunity for them to earn a little extra money on top of their full-time work.
That's
and,
right.
and help train more. It seemed to me because I've heard I heard one from the Wake County folks, and
Right.
they said when nurses can make so much more than instructors, they just can't get anybody to come teach.
That's right.
Particularly for nurses.
That's exactly right. We had some money from the state that we used to increase our nursing faculty salaries. It still didn't even get close to what they can make in the industry. However, there is a large amount of burnout in the industry too. So Dr. Martin, you may have been at the table when we had this conversation, because you said exactly what we are working on. An opportunity for nurses to work, we haven't ironed out all the details, but let's say they can work 6 months in their job at the hospital, and then they can teach for 6
Right,
months.
that's what I was getting
We
at.
already do use a large number of full-time nurses who teach adjunct for us as well, and so we're expanding those pools also. But that's exactly the kind of creative thinking that we're using to try to solve these complex problems.
And short version on your sort of daycare program that
Yes.
you have, the I guess the C campus thing.
Yes.
Are you able to get your own students, graduates? I'm looking at staffing those,
Mm-hmm.
staffing that daycare providing issue.
Yes.
Are your own graduates able to move right in there and be a part of that? Kind of, you get almost you're serving your students, yet you're providing employment opportunities for them?
Right. Not really employment opportunities for graduates. Our graduates are going to other employment opportunities, but we have a lab school that's part of this.
Right.
And so the students need those experiential hours, and they're able to do that within the lab school. But when they graduate, they are moving to other. Now, I've got a graduate now who's working as an adjunct faculty member for us, so they're sticking around, but they're also moving into other opportunities.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chairman, if I may, Dr. Spriggs, while you're there, and I wanted to expound on the daycare program that you have over there.
Yes.
Is that a program free to students, no cost?
It has been free to students for 20 and 21 graduates and 2022 graduates, thanks to the money that we've had to provide free tuition, but it is not a free program generally. Now, many or most of the students who are in early childhood education do qualify for federal Pell and other scholarships, so it is a very affordable program.
So I was wondering, is the program open to receive the daycare vouchers?
So the program, not through C campus, however, we do have daycare vouchers, yes. So there's multiple funding streams and ways that we fund daycare for our students. We have around $40,000 a year that comes to us from the state for daycare support. And then we also have a new partnership that we're starting as part of our NC Reconnect Adult Learner work that with a company that's located at Haynes Mall that allows our students to have drop-in daycare, and we give them vouchers through the John M. Belk Endowment to allow them to drop, they can take their students for 2 hours while they come to class and then go back and pick them up. So lots of opportunities around vouchers for both supporting the daycare needs as well as the tuition through scholarships and other funding.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I may, Dr. Spriggs, you referenced Upward Bound. I think you said Glenn High School?
That's correct.
The document references North Side.
Sorry, we have both, and I should have mentioned that. My apologies, I didn't see clearly on my notes. We actually received 2 Upward Bound grants this year, so we're supporting students at both high schools. Thank you for catching that.
No, thank you.
And how were those, if I may, Dr. Martin, how were those schools selected?
We actually applied 5 Upward Bound grants for 5 high schools, and our order of prioritization was different, honestly. But the federal government uses a points rubric system for their grants, and we got one of them immediately. I think it was Glenn High School, and then we were very close on North Forsyth and very close on another high school, and we went back and they allowed us to resubmit, and they had some more money to award, and we got North Forsyth. But it's a federal government process. Our applications were basically the same, except they had different data, and in our estimation, there were other high schools that could have used this money more, this support more, but the Department of Education didn't agree with us.
Okay, the
I
other,
wish I knew why.
yes, I would like to know, why, according to the federal government.
We can show
that
you, I
those-
can certainly provide their
Yeah,
explanation.
generally they
at-
give updates, where they give feedback, and it kind of tell you how the next time you apply, what you should do in order to kind of meet your outcomes. But the other question I have also is, according to the program, the LPN to RN, and you were saying that it's hard to get nurses to come over and kind of teach those classes, or people who qualify to. Is there any consideration or capacity for online learning classes?
We do that already.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of online. As a result of COVID, everything went online, so it allowed us to be able to come out of COVID with still providing those classes, and we're working to add more. We really don't have a problem getting part-time instructors as much as we struggle to get faculty who can be there full-time and can provide the amount of clinical
The
supervision.
clinical piece.
The clinical piece is the hard piece for us right now. And full-time instructors, to manage those preceptor things that they have to do and meet the requirements of the Nursing Accreditation Board. But the big thing is that they just make more money if they work for the private hospitals versus what our budget allows us to pay. And that's a big thing. Now, we're very competitive in that we have a good benefits program. We have retirement that we can offer through the North Carolina State Retirement Plan, North Carolina State Health Plan. So we have other things to make us an employer of choice, but the hospitals were offering some pretty amazing incentives, large sign-on bonuses, and so it's been hard to compete.
Yeah, I just know of one program that Novant Health has that sort of provides capacity for community nurses, where they go out into the homes of either women that are pregnant or just have had a baby. And I think there may be some collaboration even with the county. I just need to confirm this. But nevertheless, it would seem like, from my understanding, this cohort of nurses are some of the best that we have in Forsyth County. And I'm not sure where there is any maybe capacity to tap into that project, in that it seems to me their schedules are a little flexible because the way they go out and visit mothers throughout our county. But, I'm just trying to think outside the box. But I'll make sure I get the exact name of the program and to see if there's any way to sit down and talk about, helping Forsyth Tech.
Thank you so much. We
It's
appreciate
Nurse
it.
Family Partnership.
I'm sorry,
thank
what
you.
was it? The Nurse Family Partnership? Okay, thank you. I'll move forward. The next thing I want to talk about is enrollment. This graph, don't pay too much attention to all these squiggly lines except for that one at the very top. The one that's sort of a lemony color shows our fall 2022 enrollment, and it shows how we have recovered from the pandemic. And we're very excited about this because so many colleges, unfortunately, particularly the rural serving colleges in our state and across the country, are not seeing this trajectory. So we're very excited to show that we have moved back to almost where we were pre-pandemic. We know that a lot of the free college money that we've had has helped that, but we've also done a lot of work reconnecting with our adult learners and a lot of recruitment and engagement work, expanded partnerships that are very worthwhile for both the college and Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools and Stokes County schools, which we also serve. So we're very happy about this. Just in a nutshell, I'll present this other slide for you as well. This shows by category of students. So we have basically three types of students: basic skills students, those students who come to us for adult high school GEDs, help with basic skills education, continuing education students taking short-term workforce programs like basic law enforcement, electrical line worker, our fire academy students, they all fit in that category, and curriculum students who are there for a 2-year degree program. Almost all of our populations are nudging back to where they were pre-pandemic. If we look at where we were last year, we are significantly up in our enrollment, the number of students who actually come to the college, and our full-time equivalent FTE figures, which is how we are paid by the state. So in the summer last year, I'll go back to summer because it's a 3-semester year the way we're funded. In the summer, we were up 14% in enrollment. In the fall, we were up about 9% in enrollment. 7% of that, and we were also up 7% in our dual enrollment, which are high school students earning college credit for free while they're in high school. This year in the spring, we set a goal of having 8,000 students enrolled this spring. We are at 7,900 and I want to say 98 this morning, something like that, very close to that 8,000 mark. So we're going to significantly pass our projection. We want at 7,000. We've got almost 8,000. We will have over 8,000 before the semester ends. So our FTE, we estimate, is going to be up over 6% for this year, which again is not exactly trending with some of the other colleges, both at the state level and national level. So very excited to be able to report that to you this morning. Lastly, I will cover, just want to put this bug in your ear, so to speak. We are going to be convening community members at the college. I'm focusing this year really externally. I've got a wonderful leadership team that is in place at the college now. Things are going well with our enrollment, and COVID is not prohibiting our ability to be out and about as much as it was for the past 2 years. So I'm going to be focused very externally, and one of the external efforts that we want to do as a college is to convene community leaders and transformers around our communities to focus on how we can come together to solve problems through education and collective impact. And what we're going to be looking at doing is not talking about the problems, but looking at how we can link and leverage assets. Each entity, whether it's public or private, the college, the school system, Goodwill, United Way, Winston-Salem Police, the Sheriff's Office, all these different entities within our community have assets and resources that they can bring to bear on how we can work towards ending poverty, or at least tackling intergenerational poverty and making a difference with both poverty and violence. We believe that education is key in that work, and we think that as the community college, this is our work, to be a hub for this type of work and this type of convening. So more information coming soon. We will absolutely share everything we're doing with you and invite you to participate in that conversation and that work. But just wanted to let you know that that is something we're focusing on for today. And then finally, it is the best time of the year coming up for community colleges. Some people think fall or spring is the favorite season, but for me, commencement is the favorite season. And that is going to be this year on my 38th wedding anniversary, actually, May 10th. So my husband and I will be celebrating with a lot of people at the Lawrence Joel Coliseum on May 10th at 5 p.m. You will get a formal invitation, but I just wanted to go ahead and let you, if you can, put that time on your calendar. We would love to have you as our special guest, and I promise that you will be fulfilled and your heart will be warmed by seeing all the amazing success of our graduates. We anticipate having at least 600 to 700 walking graduates and around 16 to 1700 completers. I would now be happy to answer any additional questions or provide any more detail. I also will let you know that at my next quarterly report, we are compiling our strategic plan data, how we have stacked up with our work towards our strategic goals and outcomes, and that should be completed and presented to our board. And then at my next meeting with you, I'll be concentrating on providing that information to you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir. Chairman, if I may, real quick, thank you so very much for the presentation, as always. I did have a question. Sorry, I'm going back real quick. I did have a question about the community convener.
Yes.
I'm hopeful that you will stay close to the county relative to behavioral health. We're expecting dollars to come in, and we would definitely like that to be a component of this work.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
Yes.
you.
A brief clarification question. On the line graph regarding the enrollment update,
Yes, sir.
the colors shown on our copy actually suggest that, well, they don't suggest, they show that the line that is designated as Fall 22 is actually the highest line on the graph.
That's right. That means our enrollment has gone up in Fall 22. That's right.
So it's more than recovered now at this point.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, we are still, when you look at the other slide, this one, you can see that we still have a little bit more recovery that we need to work on with regards to getting back to where we were with continuing education particularly. But we're still higher than we were last year, right? So we're not quite back to 2019 or pre-pandemic, but we're almost there.
All right, so the difference between those two graphs would be one reflects your fall enrollment and the other is the combined.
Whole year.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes.
That makes it clear. So
Yes.
May I make a suggestion? You probably already have done it, but if you haven't, I would suggest it, to contact IFB Solutions, AKA Winston-Salem Industries for the Blind, which is a major player in that field in this country. And it sounds to me like this would be something that you could benefit both ways, IFB Solutions and the community itself.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Spriggs, I just want to share some exciting news with you. Yesterday, we did a groundbreaking for the new manufacturing plant that's coming to Union Cross,
Yes.
Zillipeg. They did a search in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee,
Yes.
and they chose Forsyth County. And one reason they chose Forsyth County was because of Forsyth Tech Community College
Yes.
and your ability to train their workforce. So thank you for helping bring them to Forsyth County.
Oh, thank you
Almost
so much.
500 jobs eventually.
Yes, we're very excited about that partnership. I was in D.C. yesterday meeting with our federal legislators with our trustees. So I missed that, but I'm part of the executive committee for Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., and the college was very integrally involved with that recruitment. I also will let you know, too, I don't know if they mentioned it, but the college is providing through the state funding a large amount, several $1 million of customized training for them. And that was a big part of why they, as you said, chose us through the work that we're going to be able to do. So thank you so much for that.
And they're also going to be part of the LEAP program.
Yes, they are.
That's
That's right.
exciting.
We're excited. I'm so glad that all came out yesterday, even
did.
though I wasn't there. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Spriggs.
Thank
We'll look
you.
forward to your May strategic plan update numbers.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have our school superintendent, Tricia McManus, and she's going to give us our quarterly update on what's in Forsyth County Schools.
Thank you. You are a very good teacher of the technology. Hey, hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes just to give a quick update. There's so much that we could be updating the county on, and I will say, to echo Janet's comments about data, my next time with you will definitely be to update data. We just completed our mid-year assessments, and so we are already seeing trends upward in a few of the areas that we have back, including Math 1, Math 3, and English. But I don't have the comprehensive list and anything for elementary yet. But my next time with you, we'll be updating a lot about our data and how we're doing mid-year. So again, every presentation I'm going to do with you, I'm going to start around our mission and vision and our 5 strategic plan goals that we are tracking ourselves on as well. And so to start with, I wanted to give an update. As you all know, we finally did get to swear in our Board of Education. And so I bring that forward because since they were sworn in January, we have been doing bi-weekly workshops to just like front load a lot of information. Just this week, our workshop was on our student services efforts. And so we got to drill down in how many psychologists we have and counselors and social workers and what we've spent on ESSER dollars on and all of those things and just the work they're doing around social emotional learning, healthcare. We've got we had a fascinating demo because about 4 of our schools, we have a telehealth partnership where students in those 4 schools, if they're feeling ill, can do a telehealth right there on campus. They can check their ears, they can check their throat, all of that, and it's the most incredible technology and can actually, if the parent has given permission, give medication if necessary. It's incredible, and that was state funded. And so that was a workshop this week. We've done a facilities workshop last week, and they were updated on all of the bonds and where we are with bond projects. And so they've been in avid, like just major learning mode in the last 4 weeks, and that will continue just because there's so much information to share. So I share that with you. Just, this is our new board. You'll be interacting with them quite a bit as we continue to move forward. Yesterday, our bond dollars are hard at work, and we did our ribbon cutting yesterday for JFK High School. That's just a picture of a hallway, a snapshot of what this facility looks like. It is absolutely beautiful. And the students have returned, and the teachers. If you recall, they were moved out to prep for the last 16 months. And so they are now in their beautiful new facility. And so thank you, because this is the result of our 2016 bond that JFK students now have a beautiful new home for their learning, and it's really designed around some of the CTE courses that they're specializing in. So I hope that we can get out and tour that facility. In addition, I've got 2 quick updates on 2 other projects. Brunson, which has been a long time in the making, a schematic approval will be going to our Board of Education next Tuesday. So if that approval gets done, we will move forward, and we're continuing to work on the Brownsfield agreement to make sure that site is ready to be built on. Philo Hill Middle School update. Right now, we are receiving pricing on a completed set of drawings, and just so you know, it is a mixture. It is not there was talk, was it going to be a tear down and a rebuild? Was it just a renovation? About 60,000 square feet will be new construction, and about 50,000 will be renovation within that project. Next, we're in conversations now about next year. The construction will take place starting this summer. So we are going to need to figure out location for students. So we'll be making those decisions very soon and bringing the plans to the board in March. Security update. All of our schools now have access control. I think you recall we had 1 point of entry in elementary and middle. High schools, due to the way our high schools are constructed, there were multiple entry points. We have limited those access controls and actually have updated all of that. All of our high schools now have the technology in and out of the buildings where the students have to scan their badge, and so do the adults. So when they leave one building to get to the other one, we now have the scan entry. That's been done as a result of our bond, and also all of our cameras have been updated unless the school's in construction. If the school's zoned for construction, they have not or planned for construction. They have not gotten the projects yet, the cameras yet, until that construction is completed. Budget. You'll be hearing a lot from us, I guess, between now and May. And so this is our budget timeline for this year. And so you will see in May, we will be bringing to you our budget proposal, but we have a lot of effort happening between now and then. Our Board of Education did do a finance workshop. We've talked about our priorities. We have probably too many priorities. We're kind of trying to create coherence and limit those so we can really invest in what's most important and what's going to get us the most bang for our buck with our students. And so this is just kind of an outline of the budget process we're going through right now, and we'll be ready to come back to you in May to present. So lots of conversations right now happening around budget and finance. Education Foundation, just a quick update on this. I'm not sure if you have been hearing any information about this, but our Board of Education, the former board, is where we started this conversation about the need to form an education foundation. Many districts, not just in North Carolina, but other places, do have education foundations. And so we started the discovery phase of this earlier this school year. And next week, we'll be presenting an update to our Board of Education about starting our own foundation. So we've been doing the investigation on becoming, having it be a 501c3. What does the board have to look like? How do we get seed dollars to get this up and running? And so I just wanted you to know, in case you hadn't heard about that, as you all know, next year will be our last year of ESSER. And we do have to figure out, in addition to writing a lot of grants, last year we received $25 million in grants, plus we received funds from the county, plus the state, any grants we can get from the state, but also we want to have a source of sustainable income that can actually help some of the projects that we're not going to be able to continue as a result of using ESSER dollars. And so just wanted to put this on your radar as well. More to come about our foundation.
Chairman, if I may.
Yes.
With this educational foundation, would that have a separate board outside of the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
fine.
yes,
All right,
ma'am.
that's what I need.
There will be a board member that will be not a voting member,
Right.
a school board member, and myself, but it'll be an outside
Okay.
board.
Thank you.
Human resources update. I wanted to let you know, because I know there is a lot of conversations right now, even there's been articles released lately about vacancies and how our district's reporting it. We right now, today, have 133 teacher vacancies. When you think about that, and they've been filled in different ways. Substitute teachers, and we do have a good substitute teaching pool of a lot of retirees and others. But we have 133, and I wanted to tell you, it does show that. We have had a decrease from a year ago till today. And I will say, I believe that is because of the efforts of HR and their recruitment. We have had so many recruitment efforts. You can see on here, we've increased, let's see where it is, increased efforts by 15.4%. That was about 52 recruitment efforts to about 60 recruitment efforts this year, but they're everywhere and all over the place. And we have incredible partnerships with our local universities for interns and hiring interns. We've actually, this year, we had to do something creative, and that was work with a company to do virtual, like zooming in virtual into some classes in hard to fill positions. And I was really worried about it, but right now, and math is an area of critical shortage. And I was worried about how is this going to work. You have to have a teacher in the classroom that is monitoring students, but then you have to have that content expert zooming in. And our Math 3 scores right now are up by 2%, which thank goodness, because I honestly have been worried because of the shortage. And so our schools and teachers are working hard. Our HR team is working hard. I think if you look at this, our substitute fill rate went from 64 in 2021, a 64% daily fill rate to an 80% right now, and we have more absences. So I think that to be working, we work with a company, ESS, which is a contracted service, but 80% fill rate with the number of vacancies we have, which have increased from last year with our teachers, I think is a positive. Our teacher vacancies have been reduced. We don't want to have any. No vacancy is good news, but we continue to fill them. I think the last two around teacher kitchen assistants, that is a huge number, and I'm going to open my phone because I've got the actual number there, because you're like, what, 257%? What is that about? So basically, we went from 139 in February 22 to 37 in February of 23. So that is work of, like, we're working with community partners, we're working with different community groups to host these career fairs out in our community, and we have been very successful. Our bus driver vacancies, we had 97, I think, this year. Last year at this time, we have 75 this year. We need 24 to really, even though there's 77 vacancies or 75 vacancies, we really need 24 to run our routes without, this is what I, in my meeting with our transportation team, to be able to really run our routes and not have late buses to school. Right now, without that 24, we do have some runs that are late, and that is not good for children. And so basically, we continue to have 40 bus drivers that are in training, like they cannot drive the bus yet. So if we get all those processed, we should be in good shape. Because right now, the other thing we're doing is we continue to work on cleaning up routes, because we might not need the 77 moving forward. And that's our goal. If we can be more efficient, if we can clean up routes to get down to less drivers that are needed, that is our goal. But the team is working hard, and so this is promising data around vacancies and just continuing to find talent. Now we have to retain our talent. And so we are also behind the scenes working with our compensation committees around compression. You've probably heard and last year that a lot of our classified employees, it's the not addressing of compression that causes issue with them. And so we continue to look at addressing compression, and we have a compensation committee behind the scenes that is working to figure out what can we do for the employee groups that are actually our lowest paid employee groups. How can we address their needs so that we can retain those staff? Because as you all know, it takes a village, it takes everyone. And so that's
Chairman, if
yes.
I may, right there, if you can stay right there for a moment. These are just some thoughts that I'm
Yes.
going to share with you. My daughter, who's the new mom now, who works at Forsyth Tech, has a bit of anxiety with my grandbaby. So she's like, Mom, when she gets ready to go to school, I hope that you're in a place that you can participate. And then looking in terms of transforming, we're doing a lot of work trying to put our heads together. But I think what we're doing in terms of the core family, we're not including the core family. So with that being said, I thought that possibly in the work that we do with the interns, the students, we can include parents, moms, dads, friends, families of those children that go to the actual school, to train them and give them a tad bit of a stipend. It wouldn't be as much as you're paying an actual teacher, but again, you're providing them a way. And even when those parents come in, they're being trained. A lot of parents really don't know. They don't have the tools, and they're afraid to ask. They're embarrassed. Just a plethora of things are going on. And then the work that's being sent home, they can't help a lot of times. So if they're sitting in a class and they're witnessing, the behavior is going to be different. The child is learning and the parent is learning at the same time. I know I'm dreaming
I love
big,
that idea.
but just something for you to think about.
I love that
and
idea.
provide
I will
some
bring that to our, Rhonda Mays is now leading our family
I love her.
engagement work.
Awesome.
And so we are thinking very differently about the future of family engagement. I will share that idea with her and tell her also to reach out so you can give her a few
Sure,
other
tell her
ideas
to
as
call
well.
me. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chairman.
So career pathways, and again, we have, Janet's gone. I was going to say, we have a great partnership with Forsyth Tech, but our career pathways, this is just an example of our career pathways. And I have this on here to tell you a couple of our new ones that are coming, and I'm going to again pull up my notes on my phone. Let's see. So basically, students have the opportunity in our district, and this has been going on for years, but I wanted you to get a true picture of this career pathway that's been created. We actually have 46 of these pathways in our district, and we keep growing. They're aligned to local industry for both funding and higher student engagement. We have a great high school graduation rate for students that are in a pathway, 99% graduation rate. So our goal is to have more pathways available and to get more of our students interested in these pathways. And so I will tell you the ones we're adding in 23-24. We're adding cybersecurity, aerospace, teaching as a profession, and project management. Those will be new pathways for next year. And then for 24-25, we'll be adding advanced manufacturing and HVAC. So we are continuing to expand on our CTE pathways offerings for students. Very excited about some of the ones that are coming at Carver specifically next school year. We'll have a pathway around cybersecurity, and they already have another pathway around hospitality, but they'll have cybersecurity, and we're also doing work around aviation coming to Carver. And some of you have probably been at the table for some of those conversations, but very excited about the future with our career and technical education offerings.
Excuse me,
Yes.
just a quick question. In terms of numbers of kids, you've got all these pathways and
Yes.
obviously great success. How many are you getting to sign up?
How many are taking it?
I'm kind of curious about, you probably got 14, 15,000 high school students. I'm kind of curious
that.
how many are in the pathways programs.
That is a great question, and I will get that, Dr. Martin. I should know that off the top of my head, and I don't. So I will get
Well,
that.
not
I'll get that
necessarily.
back to you. Yep. Yep. All right. Summer learning. So when I was last with you all, we talked about an RFP that we were doing for ELP, which is Extended Learning Program, and that's tutoring services every day. And so tutoring is really an important part of ESSER, and so we used ESSER dollars to actually do an RFP out to the community earlier this school year, and we started in October daytime tutoring services using some of our local providers that actually won the bids for the RFP. We have one out right now again, and this is for summer learning, and I want to tell you what this is about, and here's the website, here's the information. It is actually, and it should be an RFQ, I'm not sure it says RFP there, but it really should be an RFQ. This summer, we were trying to do something like we've never done before, and this is why. So summer learning for our school district has been about a 4-week process, maybe 5-week process. 1 year to 2 years ago, it was longer, and across the state, it went longer. But our students are, they're going to school, and for some students, this kind of summer learning is not, I guess, as exciting as a summer program where they could be going and getting arts and getting, summer camps. So we want our summer program to feel like a summer camp. So we are partnering, this RFP is about partnering with local organizations to actually create a mixture of a summer camp with the academic learning. We are adding more arts into the summer program. We are adding more STEM activities into the summer program, but we're also wanting to partner with a community. I'll just give an example. If the YMCA were to apply for this and be a partner, our students would go to the Y. We will push in to the Y centers with our instruction, but students would be getting all day long other things through the Y. They might get swimming, they might be doing other extracurriculars, and then their reading would be part of that. But they will have this longer opportunity of an entire 8 weeks in the summer. Reason being, and it's because there are some kids that get those opportunities. And so the gap gets wider if you've got kids that are well-resourced, that continue to get opportunities, that advance their learning, advance their experiences, advance their language development. And then you have students that come to summer program, and go home, and it's 4 weeks. So we want to advance the learning for all of our students and advance the access and opportunity for all of our students. And we want to work with our community to do that. And so this is a whole new look at summer. We're going to try it this summer, see how it goes. We're hoping we get a lot of folks that want to apply. It's an RFQ because we basically have said, here's what we need. Who has the resources and the ability to do this? And so it's a little bit different than an RFP. So we'll keep you posted on that, but we want all of our kids to be able to have a great summer where they're learning, but also building their language development and experiences through hands-on, through field trips, and through things that summer camps provide for some students, but not always for all. And we want to be able to have that for all, that access.
Can I ask you 2 questions
Yes.
on that? The simple one is there a criteria? Can anyone attend these particular grants, or do you need to be at a
Yes.
certain level? In other words, anybody can go?
No, it's not, no. So it's really designed, we're going to continue with a major focus on third grade. And so the third graders that are not proficient yet in reading, they will be a major target. We're doing other programs for middle and high, and we also have CTE opportunities in the summer and other summers. But this summer programming is really designed for the K-3 student. so that we can work toward meeting our 90 by 25 goal.
We're looking at non-proficient students.
Yes.
And third grade only?
No, it is a K-5, but third grade is the major target, Dr. Martin, but it is a K-5 program.
And the second question is in terms of in the past, when you have looked for, students who are not proficient, summer opportunities, 8 weeks, you've had all kind of opportunities to catch up. Do you have any data on how many students are not coming? For example, you're not proficient, you're invited to come and you choose not to come. I'm kind of, because I had this, it is a suspicion, I don't have any number, not really, if you've got, and I suspect you do, is that I have the suspicion that a large percentage, in the 15-20%, getting invitations to come and they're not coming. And many times the people who don't come are the people who need the help the most. They're basically
Yes.
the furthest behind.
Yes.
And I actually had a conversation with Representative Land, this was a couple weeks ago, actually a couple months ago. Because one of the thoughts that occurred to me is that, part of this catching up from COVID, if we could look at compulsory attendance being extended through the summer, just for like a 3-year period. I mean, it's not forever. But a period of time to say, if you're behind, you kind of got to be there, because we've got to have these opportunities to catch up. He liked the idea. He had some conversation with the leadership group that in the House, and they said, well, we like it, but we have another idea. Of course, the last time I spoke with him, which was last week, I said, what's the other idea yet on this? Because you realize this doesn't cost any money. Compulsory attendance requirement, when people say, you can kind of say, you got to be there.
Yeah.
Is there some follow-up? Yeah, but you have a little bit of teeth. It's only a little, but it's better than nothing.
Right.
And it sets also an expectation in the initial letter. And if you've got something that's fun, the fun side of it is you're voluntarily attracting people to do it. And that's great. And we've been, in the past, we were fortunate to have some other monies and different, folks that worked on those, and it works, it does work. But you still end up with this group of kids who are not proficient, and they don't come.
Yeah.
They won't be a part of it. And I think it just takes some kind of teeth to that. In fact, I'm going to see him again soon, and I'm really wondering what this plan is. But
I know, I can't wait to hear about it.
I'm making an assumption that it's something like that you would support, to have a way to say,
If we could just keep going, my idea is, just keep going. Let's just head into summer and keep going. I'm not sure parents would like that, but I think that if they thought, so for kids, to have some kids break for summer, and I'm going to go do all this, and have some kids, that's why we want to make this learning experience like a camp. So where you're getting hands-on art and your ceramics and your music, and kind of like the arts camps that we have actually hosted internally, like locally. We do believe that through that kind of advertising and marketing, and also the way we do outreach. So again, if a parent gets a letter in the mail and says your child needs to come to summer program, they're not reading proficiency and they need to come, and that's very different than
you're invited to come to this great program.
We want you to come to
But then
summer
the question becomes, what about those that still refuse and that need a lot of help?
Yeah.
That's what worries me
I
a little
agree.
bit.
I agree, and I
agree.
yeah.
I understand that.
And I still believe in the personal, like the outreach to the parent. So I have not met a parent in my 33 years that didn't really want something good for their child. I have not. I know that sounds like 33, really? No, really. And so when you do the personal outreach and say, the bus is coming and we're picking up your child, and they're going to come, they're going to be fed 2 meals a day, and they're going to get arts and music, and they're going to get reading, and they're going to get all this stuff, and we'll bring them home at 4 o'clock, and they're going to get this all summer. It would be, most parents would say, all right, sign me up. We just need to take that time, and I think what happens is, we sometimes believe that if we build it, they'll just come, and they won't. We got to build it and actually grab their hand and personally say, here's what we want for your child. I think our recruitment effort this summer is going to look very different than it has in my other 2 summers here. And not that we haven't done a great job like sending tons of messages home, but it's going to be this personal touch. It's going to be visits by school staff. It's going to be, kind of old-fashioned outreach. And I think that we'll get more, but I'll get you the numbers because we've got the last 2 summers of numbers, how many kids have come. What I don't know is how many were invited because they needed to come, and then how many came. I have general numbers, but I'll get that, Dr. Martin, because I think that'll be good to look at.
And Tricia, with
Yep.
that, I would like to see the success for those students that did participate.
Yes.
Is it working?
We have that data, and we
Yeah.
did share that data, and so I want you to, so last year, in the last 2 years, some students have then met that mark. So you're going with a whole year of instruction, and now you're going to 4 to 5 weeks. So we shared that data with the Board of Education, I think it was 2 weeks ago at our last board meeting, about how many kids then met the mark after that 4 weeks of learning. It wasn't huge numbers, but some did. Some did meet the mark after the 4 weeks.
I'm figuring the more and more that they participate, it will increase.
Yes.
But that's important
Yeah.
for me to know. Thank
Okay,
you.
there's 3 data points so far. I'll get back to you guys on. Last but not least, we have been, as part of our Goal 3, to build relationships across our community. I have been going to each of our municipalities, which has been very interesting because I had only ever come to you all and then once to the city. And so now I've had a chance of getting out into all of these and sharing data from our district as a whole, and then the schools that are feeder into if they live in these communities, what schools feed, do they feed into? And it's been great conversation, and it's been great just, a lot of our community saying, how do we get involved? What do we need to do to help support our schools? And so that's just been part of our, just trying to kind of break down walls and know that we're all in this wanting the same thing for our kids. And, Sheriff Kimbrough mentioned when he started today that about late night last night, and his late night call was to me. And we really do have to figure out together how to combat some of the violence that's happening in our communities, because we've lost 2 children in 3 weeks to violence in the community, gun violence. And so that then spills into our schools. And so it's definitely a community, school, all of us together effort. So I was glad to hear Janet talk about what she's wanting to talk about. We have so many great people in our community, great resources, people that want to make a difference. And I really do believe we have the tools to do it. It's just a matter of what is the exact thing that's going to work, and let's get at it. But anyway, so I wanted to end with that, and I will definitely be back to you all with data in my next presentation around how our kids are doing data-wise. And so any other questions?
I am.
Any other
Go
questions?
ahead, Dan.
Go ahead.
Oh, I've got 3,
Okay.
please.
Okay. So first, just let me say, Ms. McManus, it's happy to see you here, and I miss our, more intimate engagement. And I think everybody knows in this community that I am a hardcore advocate, along with, I'm sure, Dr. Martin is a professional educator of public school education. It is, in my opinion, the great equalizer in a democracy.
Yes.
And so I am humbled before you always, because I know the work that lies on the shoulders of a superintendent. And if anybody knows anything about what's going on around our nation, we've lost so many superintendents due to the hard nature of the job now, especially since COVID. So we appreciate you in this community for remaining here and helping us to do the hard work. With that said, I do have a question that I think definitely specifically connects to the lane over here on the county side with the bond dollars and where we are with Philo Hill Middle School. I'm glad you specified the update as it relates to 60,000 square feet with new construction, and then 50,000 would be for renovation. So that means essentially it's the same building, but some of it is newer and some of it is renovated from the old, is what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the classrooms, to be specific around it, the classrooms will be new. The office, some of the things that will be renovated will be the offices. The classrooms will be to complete rebuild. And then the kitchen as well, and a few other places. The office, gym, auditorium, those will be renovations. But then, but the places where students, are in their classrooms will be completely redone.
And so what I will, I guess, also disclaim about this is I 100% believe that any of our schools that are not up to par, the bond has already said it's going to, look differently. There's going to be some kind of update. That's a benefit. I guess the concern that I would have as a citizen is that if Philo Hill is meant to have at capacity 800 students, but only 300 attend, how are you overcoming that gap? Where are there considerations to try to make sure that the students that, have the convenience of being in that area where Philo Hill, come back or interested in, considering coming back to Philo Hill because it is, a new infrastructure?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I know we're now close to 400 at Philo, and I do believe the STEAM, so their magnet, their pathway there will be, or their focus will be STEAM, and really bringing the students from Conoke and from that area, for that to appeal to them is very important. New leadership there, I think, too, is helping. We have a principal there that this is her first year there, but between the new facility, the new programming, and some of the opportunities for STEAM, which will, bring forth the arts and the sciences and technology, and then the and then just new energy, I think will all be helpful to the recruitment of kids that will come there, that are in that residential area, that will actually come there, along with others who will be attracted to come there. So,
okay, thank you. The other question I had was around the pathways.
Yes.
And I think that, let me go back to that page. The carpentry career pathway, I think, is a great opportunity for Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools to be a part of this affordable housing, workforce housing commitment that everybody, all hands on deck. I'm not sure if you know that over in Guilford County, there was a federal grant awarded to where students that's in the carpentry pathway are helping to build homes. That money was received from the federal government for them to be able to build affordable housing and workforce housing. So I hope that we can definitely leverage this pathway to, be in, I'm sure, collaboration with the county, the city, et cetera. And then the aviation piece, I think with, again, there is obviously new excitement through the county, being the primary entity responsible for Smith Reynolds. Where is there any capacity to cooperate and collaborate with the school district with that? I think that is a great opportunity for us to make sure that the school district is, kind of hand in glove with the county and making sure that we have a workforce that can accommodate I don't want to say a new venture, but a remixed venture to make sure that Winston Forsyth County School is, not Winston Forsyth County School, but Forsyth County has a viable place in this endeavor around the airport. And then the last piece I would kind of raise to all of our attention with the career pathway, especially as it relates to the violence and all of these things that's going on, is I was looking at CMS website the other day because I was actually trying to locate the gentleman that's over magnet programs. I think his last name is Mr. Hall. But I noticed that they have a law enforcement pathway. And I think that would be an excellent opportunity for city, county, school district to figure out what that looks like. And I think a lot of times our students, especially, most marginalized students, whether they're poor, African-American, Hispanic, because they don't know foundationally what it means to be in law enforcement instead of stereotypically not being connected, we may be able to leverage that. And I would, definitely like to see some consideration around considering a pathway, maybe not, at least by the 24-25 school year.
I
Yes.
love everything you said. I really love that idea about a pathway in law enforcement. That would help our local communities so much when they have a shortage, just like we're doing our teacher pathways. So I love that. I'll take it back. I will take that one back too, immediately.
Thank you.
Dan's got a couple.
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. McManus, staying on the pathways, this is just something that would be helpful for my information. You indicated that you have 46 in place, and I think you referenced 4 being added this year. Can someone on your staff please provide us with a list of the 46, and for each, which campuses host those?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Very good question.
A couple of budget-related questions. Particularly you referenced the bus driver vacancies, and can you give me the total number of bus drivers that you have?
Yes. Oh, gosh, I should have brought my notebook in because we just did this. I just met with transportation. I think is it 3? Is it?
About
We're at
300
200. We have 300 and a little over 300 buses. We're at 230 or 40 like drivers. So on paper, it's 77 short. So just put approximately 300 buses that would need a driver for.
Okay, because this was a particular issue that's been called, to my attention over the past year. You have about 40 currently in training. What's your usual graduation rate of people that go into training?
Well, so in training right now, they're at different places of their training. So some it's the CDL. And so that they're, and this is not answering your question directly, but the CDL, we can only do those classes we're at the mercy of someone else to do the classes. And so that takes time. And then you have to do your driving on the bus with the driver. Everything takes time. I don't know that I will have to get you the graduation rate of that. But we have filled 20 vacancies in the last from probably October to now. So we are graduating folks. I don't know their actual rate though, but I will find that out and then find out what it is that is keeping them. Sometimes it is the process. I mean, I will just be point blank, it is the process. We are doing things like paying for the CDL. We're trying to do things that alleviate pressure from the future driver. But it is definitely, it is a process. And I can see why. I mean, driving a bus of students is probably one of the hardest things I can think of doing. Just driving a bus is, much less with, 40 kids in the back of it. But I will find out the graduation rate for you.
And the reason I'm asking about that in particular is that one suggestion that has been made to me is that the local salary supplements for classified staff could be improved with this as an example. And I'm looking for a better feel of how much that might help, and if it might help, is there any plan to make a request for funding for that?
Yeah, good question. And I will say too that the good news, and this was clarified to me the other day too, is once the driver is in training, they're getting paid, which is good. They're not doing that on their own time.
Right.
So they're getting paid all this part while they're doing this preparation. 2 years ago, we gave our bus drivers, we raised the bus driver salary 2 years ago. But now since then, it's kind of back down because other entities have raised the bus driver salaries. And so we need to address it again. We have a list that we were going through of each of our classified employee groups. It started with bus drivers, it then moved to kitchen assistants, it then moved to TAs, and that's been over the last 2 years. Our focus now, the next group is on the list, and again, this is through a compensation committee that includes bus drivers, mechanics, TAs, all the different roles. The next group on the list was going to be actually our lead financial secretaries, who have also not been touched. There's just a long list going, and this is definitely an issue, but that committee, part of our budgeting process that we're going through from now until we bring you a budget at May, is to figure out if we were to address this even in some way and address compression so that a driver that's been driving for 20 years is making more than a driver that's coming in that's now making this amount. That'll be part of our budget that we come forth with. And so I don't know how much all of that will cost yet, but it'll be part of our overall. Plus, to be honest with you, also, Commissioner Bessie, we are also trying to see where can we also find out, like, eliminate things that may not be as important or are not working, or so that we can then put the money into these compensation efforts. So we feel we're not going to come forward and just keep wanting to add on. Here's what we've saved, the dollars we've saved, and this is what we can do, and then be real intentional about what we ask if we ask for additional dollars.
All right, well, thank you. I
Yeah.
can only speak for myself, but I would welcome seeing any proposals that you
Thank you.
would bring forward in that area. And final question, the Educational Foundation.
Yes.
Do you have a draft of the proposal that you can share with us?
Yes.
I would be interested, for
Yeah.
example, in the primary types of projects funded, whether it's primarily curriculum, whether it's primarily extracurricular activities, whether it's facilities are a part of that, because this is a variation, is a more sophisticated variation on a concept that I had been discussing over the past year.
Okay.
And I'd love to see how this would work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Vice Chair Wizenhut.
I'll hurry because I've asked for a break.
Okay.
Could we get a slide in your next presentation on the quarter-cent sales
Yes.
tax and how
Yes.
it's being distributed,
Yes,
please? Thank you.
absolutely.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Appreciate it. Let's take us a 5-minute recess, and we'll take a quick one and come back.
Thank you, good idea. But don't we have control of that?
No, sir.
Richard's catching.
Well, we're not going to the same room.
Now, which room would they be going to? You been doing all right?
Quick question.
No problem. That's not good. I need some problems.
That's what makes life exciting, though, the
Got that right, yeah. Well, this is the first 10 o'clock meeting we've had in years. What do you think of it?
But the resolution was from us.
I try not to ask that question again.
That's what I mean. All we said was in doing it for education, couldn't we make classified staff supplements?
Most of this stuff it's like we were talking about community involvement and all this. Look, I've been doing this since 1994, and I would give anything Bobby Kimbrough wants. I'd give it to him. He's just one of the really good people. He knows what he's talking
They
about.
were to send us.
And the city of Winston-Salem is not going to change. If they were, they'd at least made some effort within the last 30 years.
Thanks for your patience.
That is quite okay, and I'm going to try, I'll probably breeze through several of these fairly quickly. I think you've probably, I don't know whether anyone's had a chance to look at them or not, but I believe you do have them. As always, great to be in front of you. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This is the Planning and Development Services quarterly update. And for some reason, there we go. As far as activities we've been working on, most recently we've been working on several text amendments. UDO CC17, which is dealing with a subset in manufacturing C, will be an extensive part of this conversation, so I won't cover that on this slide. UDO CC19 is a text amendment that we have been working on to allow for greater adaptive reuse of buildings for restaurants, and it was adopted by City Council recently, and it's applicable in GMAs 1 and 2 in order to keep the ordinance consistent and to afford this opportunity for the small towns that Forsyth County's zoning regulations apply to. We would be bringing this to the commissioners sometime in the near future. And again, this is something that is to keep the ordinance consistent, but is also a good thing for property owners. UDO CC20 is a text amendment that will be coming forward as well. That's dealing with just a clarification to our subdivision regulations, making it clear that you have to have the first or bottom layer of asphalt in before we'll sign the plat, which allows for construction of the subdivision, and that's been our practice, but there was some confusion in the language, so we're just bringing through a clarification on that. You'll see that sometime this spring. And the final thing is a change to the North Carolina general statutes for cities that deal with how site triangles are measured at the intersection. Currently, it's from the property line, and the General Assembly changed that to say it's from the edge of pavement. They only made it applicable in the city, which is somewhat confusing because it should have general applicability everywhere. That's the way we're going to treat it. We're going to change how we do that in both the city and county, again, for consistency. And again, it also is a benefit to the property owner in that it provides it basically makes it consistent, and the way that the site triangle is now going to be done, it will be from the edge of pavement versus from the right of way. And that's just the graphic there that shows how that will be done. Spoke to you last time we were here about our new comprehensive plan effort, Forward 2045. We continue to work on that. We are finalizing a dedicated website, which will be www.forward2045.com. That website will go live whenever we launch our online survey that we will send out to stakeholders. We've already been doing events out in the community. Back in the fall, we've identified stakeholders. We're in the process of meeting with those stakeholders. So stay tuned. And I have another slide on this a little bit later that shows a little more in depth what we're going to be doing, but I'm not going to go over point by point what that is. As far as economic development, we continue to collaborate with Greater Winston-Salem Inc. Vice Chairman Wisenhunt mentioned earlier our success that we had recently with Zeal Lebeg. We continue to work with Greater Winston-Salem Inc., utilities, county economic development, city economic development, to make sure that we are responsive to folks that are looking at our community and making sure that our zoning ordinance and our zoning regulations allow for the types of uses that are looking at our community, and just being creative with that. We do have a number of successes. Those are included on the image there on your the bottom right. Just a little bit of an update on caseload. I'm not sure, longtime commissioners, if you feel like you're seeing me a lot more than you used to, but you are. When you look at our zoning caseload overall, which is the yellow numbers, the 2-year total for 19 and 20 for both the city and the county, we had 85 zoning cases. For the year 2021 and 2022, we had 134, which represents about a 65% increase year to year, or the 2-year comparison. For the county, we had 29 zoning cases in 21-22 compared to 16 for that 2-year period 19-20, which represents an over 80% increase in the number of zoning cases that are coming. So again, just we are very busy in our shop. Something else that we are working on, again, to continue to make our ordinance more user-friendly, we are going through and creating graphics. We have an architect on staff who is one of our planners, and that's intentional for urban design things. He actually helped on the park. He was the person that helped design that initial layout for the park up off of Backaville, or into Backaville. Anyway, we're going to be working on these graphics that will aid the user to more clearly understand what some of our regulations are. These are just some representative samples. We'll be bringing those to Planning Board later this spring, so they'll be coming to the City Council and County Commissioners late spring, early summer. Looking at development-related trends, this is just looking at, this came out of and I actually have a copy for everyone, our quarterly development dashboard. For the fourth quarter, we always look at it for the year. And while we had a slight decrease in residential construction permit values for 2022, it was not much of a decrease. $407 million of newly permitted residential development compared to $429 for 2021. This is looking at non-residential construction, almost $450 million in 2022, compared to in 2021, we had a little over $600 million. But again, slight decrease, but not drastic. Certainly not anything that causes any alarm whenever you look at kind of the nature of how commercial development goes up and down anyway. This is just looking at where those permits were, what type of sector they were in: single-family, multifamily, office, commercial, institutional, industrial, parks and rec, and utilities. Just kind of a representative sample there. The institutional, that $295 million, whereas I think whenever I did this report a year or two ago, a big chunk of that was the construction of the courthouse out here. Again, non-taxable, but very important as far as being an economic engine for supplying jobs in our community. In that institutional sector there, that represents some work that's going on now at Novant. That's a large chunk of that is the new Novant Tower that's being constructed. And when I do this report next year, it'll be a big chunk for the Atrium Tower at Wake Forest Baptist Health. So this just kind of shows where the development has taken place all throughout the county. You see, a lot concentrated in the urban core. But again, lots of development everywhere within the county, which again shows a healthy economy. I mentioned Forward 2045. We've talked about it before. That is our new comp plan. We're in the process of doing the meeting with boards and committees of our appointed boards, kind of get their input on the comp plan. Again, we have had some stakeholder. We are in the process of doing stakeholder engagement as well. We'll have the formal outreach that will occur later this spring, into the summer and into next fall, with a series of public meetings. And again, I've already mentioned the website that we're launching. Again, we hope to be completed with the comp plan by fall of 2024. Of course, just talking about staffing a little bit, since Aaron transitioned to the city manager's office, we've been kind of moving pieces on the chessboard. Since then, we still have 5 or 6 vacancies out of our planning staff of 22. So, we're doing a lot of work, but we still have some positions that we need to fill, and that may affect our schedule a little bit as it relates to completion of the comp plan. But we do continue to work on it. This brings me to the crux of today. It's going to be a question for the commissioners. Obviously, I'm not sure how that just changed, but it's no secret the Winston Weaver plant fire back in 2022 could have been catastrophic. The night of the fire, I started looking at, are there things that we can do from a land use standpoint that might have, thank goodness it wasn't tragic, it was bad, but it could have been. It seems like when I'm clapping, for some reason it's changing. I don't know why. But were there things that could be done from a land use perspective that would perhaps have lessened the impact had it been catastrophic? So we did some research with our peer communities and how they address fertilizer plants through zoning restrictions and other requirements. And the communities we looked at were the counties of Cumberland, Durham, Guilford, Mecklenburg, and Wake, and the cities of Charlotte, Durham, Fayetteville, Greensboro, and Raleigh. And of course, that, the cities and the counties, the cities that we looked at were in the same jurisdictions of the county or within the counties named. So just a little bit of history. The Winston Weaver plant, you see there's an aerial photo of the plant in 1951. And there's an aerial photo of 2018. So again, this was, when it was originally built, it was built in the county, 1939. It was constructed and opened in Forsyth County in January 1940. At that point, the state did not allow counties to have zoning authority. The Winston Weaver plant was actually annexed by Winston-Salem, and industrial zoning was assigned for that property in 1964. It's 1967 whenever zoning was adopted in the county. And I just say that because, again, I want folks to understand it wasn't like this was cited in an area as a result of zoning or anything else. I'm not sure how it ended up where it did in 1939, but as you can see, I don't want to pretend that there wasn't development around there, but there wasn't a lot of development. And it was in more of a rural area of the county. Looking at how we classify fertilizer plants, they're classified currently in the UDO as a subset of manufacturing C. There are 13 uses that have to be manufacturing C, and this is one of those. And manufacturing C is only allowed in our most intense zoning district, which is general industrial. And that last regulation is related to you can't have that manufacturing C within 1 mile of Salem Lake by our watershed protection regulations. In response to some of our research, in response to the Public Works Committee serving as the Winston Weaver Task Force, they asked us to prepare a text amendment that aimed at having some greater land use protections for potentially harmful industries, industrial uses, and we had some discussions with the Winston Weaver Task Force, the Public Works Committee, and we also had extensive conversations with the Planning Board. In looking at our peer communities, fertilizer plants were, generally speaking, only allowed in the community's heaviest industrial zoning district, similar to what we had and have. It was classified as some form of chemical or high-impact hazardous manufacturing. And our peer communities, not consistently across the board, but had some type of approval process. Some of them had special use permit approval. Some of them had enhanced setbacks from residential. A lot of them had perimeter and security wall fencing. Most all of them required some type of hazard materials management plan, and most all of them also did have restrictions related to not being able to locate within water supply watersheds. This is us compared to our peer communities. I did include Winston on there since Winston has already adopted these provisions, just to show what those, what they do, what the ordinance is that has been adopted, and what I'm going to be asking if the commissioners want to consider. But again, you notice that there are several jurisdictions that require a special use permit or special use district zoning. Some of them have enhanced setbacks from residential districts. Some of them have security fencing requirements. Guilford County, being our closest peer on this list and being someone who we do compete with for industry, has restrictions similar to, if not more restrictive than what's being proposed. Again, looking at our municipal peers, similar. It's kind of a hodgepodge, but looking at our closest competitor of Greensboro, they have regulations in line with what is being proposed and what has been adopted by the city. What those regulations are specifically apply to the subset of chemical manufacturing dealing with pesticides, fertilizer, and agricultural chemical manufacturing, and explosives and pyrotechnics. That's specifically related to the volatile and explosive nature and potential negative impacts of a disaster would have on those industries. The other thing that we did apply this to is primary battery manufacturing, just because of the types of materials, types of chemicals that they have, and wanted to provide some type of greater level of protection and setback from surrounding properties. The use-specific standards would only apply to new manufacturing uses in the aforementioned categories. These uses, as is currently the case, are only allowed in general industrial zoning. But in this case, what it would be an elected body decision. So if someone wanted to locate one of these uses, it would have to come to the commissioners as a special use district rezoning where you could hear from anyone who had concerns, and you could also impose additional conditions if you felt like that there was some extenuating circumstance that needed to be addressed. Hazardous material management plan would be required prior to the issuance of the building permit, and that just allows our emergency management and fire folks to kind of know what they have on site and how they plan on storing those materials. Similar to what we currently have related to manufacturing C, they would not be allowed in the public water supply watershed, such as Salem Lake. That's not a change. We're looking at a minimum site size of 25 acres, and that's as a result of the increased setbacks that we have. If you look below that, when you have a minimum perimeter setback of 400 feet, whenever you do the math, you have a fairly large piece of property that you need in order to do this and have an adequate area to be able to have your actual manufacturing facility. So the minimum perimeter setback would include you couldn't have your loading and unloading storage areas or any manufacturing within that 400 feet, but you could have parking as long as you have to have a 100-foot buffer around the edge, but then you could have your parking in that 300 feet where you can't have the building. So again, just trying to give folks the ability to use their site, but build in some protections. 6-foot security wall or fence proposed, and the landscaping, which is already required, would just have to be outside of that security fencing so it doesn't look like a fortress. In summary, this is kind of what has happened to date. The planning board spent several meetings vetting the research and draft recommendations. The Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. was kept apprised of the proposed changes as we develop the standards. We meet monthly with folks with Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., where we do talk about economic development projects, strategize on upcoming things that are coming in, and just an exchange of information. So they were kept abreast of this and had no concerns with this. Again, this was adopted by the city back in December. And the proposed county regulations, again, be the same thing as the city, are not out of line with the regulations in other communities. In other words, what the city has adopted and what we would be bringing forth to the commissioners, same regulations, are not out of line with our peer city and county units of local government. Again, this was approved by council on December 5th. And the question before the county commissioners is this a text amendment that you would like to consider? Just a little bit of additional summary that I'll provide before you answer that question is, again, this is one of those things where we try to provide a balance between providing some additional level of protection versus having something that could be considered a taking. You can't have regulations that are so strict that it would essentially prohibit it from within the jurisdiction, or have such onerous requirements that would require massive pieces of property. This is a text amendment that we feel like strikes a good balance there. One of the things some of our peer communities do are to have separations. You saw some of those measurements in there, 1,500 feet from the use to residentially zoned or used property. Well, that's difficult because, if you have that type of measurement and then someone comes and puts a house in an area where a house is allowed, it could render your property that you just spent millions of dollars on non-conforming. So we're trying to keep the regulations onto the property so as not to create future non-conforming situations. The last piece of the puzzle that I'll leave you with is, again, this is just one tool in the toolbox to address these situations. Under existing GI zoning, if you are adjacent to non-residential zoning, in other words, if you're GI adjacent to GI, if you're GI adjacent to HB, you can be as close to the property line as a half foot. If you are adjacent, this is under current regulations. If you are adjacent to residential zoning, you could be as close as 40 feet. So again, I'm not pretending that this is a magic bullet, but if you're looking at being able to have a fertilizer plant within 40 feet of a residentially zoned property and something happened, that's a problem. If you were to adopt this and have that 400 feet, I'm not saying you wouldn't have a problem, but you've increased the distance by a factor of 10. And again, that's one of those things, just trying to balance the needs of the community versus the needs, and to allow for economic development. So with that, I'm going to be quiet. There were a couple more slides I had on here just off the back in case there were some questions that came up, not specifically related to this, but just in general. This was actually the last slide I planned on covering. So with that, I'll be glad to entertain any questions.
Do you have any idea when this tool in the toolbox will come to us for adoption?
That's part of the question today. Whenever we started this process, we had reached out to the county manager's office and just gave them a heads up of what we were doing. And, in discussing it with the manager's office, they want us to continue what we were doing in the city, but once it got adopted, bring it to the commissioners to see if this was something that you were interested in doing. If the commissioners give us direction that it is something that you're interested in doing, it can be with you within the next month.
And
probably.
from a personal point of view, you think this really needs to be adopted for all the right reasons?
I really do. I think this is something, again, it helps with consistency because we can speak from the same playbook whenever we're talking to anyone that's interested in doing this. And, the law of unintended consequences, if the county doesn't adopt this and the city does, and someone wants to come do a manufacturing C used for a fertilizer plant and they go locate out in the county, are we inadvertently pushing the danger from the city out to the county? So again, I think it's from a consistency standpoint, so we make sure that we have the same set of regulations when we're dealing with developers. I think it's good, but also I don't think we want to inadvertently push danger out to our county residents.
Makes common sense, doesn't it?
Other questions?
I do. Do you know if Weaver has plans to rebuild?
As a result of these regulations being adopted, they can't rebuild on that site.
Oh, I understand that. They probably don't have to rebuild the county.
I have not, Aaron had some contact with them. He became the unofficial kind of Winston Weaver point person for the city. They, as of this past fall, were still indicated they wanted to rebuild somewhere in the area. And I don't know if that means the region, if that means in the county. Again, with these regulations, they can't rebuild where they are because they don't meet the requirements there now. But I haven't heard anything about it since the fall, what their intentions are now.
Okay, and at the planning board, it was not a unanimous vote. Can you tell me what the other two were concerned with?
It basically split down the middle. One thought the regulations went too far, and one didn't think the regulations went far enough. So, again, so it was 6-2, and like I said, you had one person who felt like we should be regulating more, and one person, and I won't say thought they went too far, but thought we didn't have enough information, and thought that, again, holistically, there are other things, fire, if this plant were to be built today, obviously it would have modern fire suppression systems. It would have modern storage for the materials and those kind of things, not a wood frame constructed building that was built in 1939. So again, I think one wanted to go further. The other one thought it maybe went too far, but thought we didn't have enough information.
Okay, thank you.
Just to follow up on that, just to follow up on that issue, one of the things I did not see in the charts about minimum acreage, your 25-acre deal, did the other counties have a sort of a size limit? I didn't see that in the chart.
They didn't, and that's because our peer communities that did it as a measurement from nearest residentially zoned property or nearest residential use. And again, looking at it, we felt like that was problematic because if you're using that as your measurement tool and then someone rezones property or builds a house within that buffer area, then essentially your property, if you're the industry, becomes non-conforming. So that brings in a whole nother set of issues. If you've just spent $40 or $50 million to build a manufacturing facility and someone builds a house within that perimeter area and now you've become non-conforming, you're limited on what you can ever expand. So that's the reason why they don't have minimum acreages, because it's not driven by a setback on their property. The reason why we do have a minimum acreage, again, is if you have a 400-foot setback over here, a 400 over here, a 400 here, and a 400 here, just doing the math of 800 by 800, that's already 14 acres. By the time you put a manufacturing facility, the storage and truck loading and unloading areas, I mean, that's going to take up 6-8 acres. So we just felt like 25 acres was a good threshold. We have looked both in the city and the county. We do have ample acreage to accommodate these uses should someone desire to build one, either through already existing vacant GI zoned property or areas identified in our various area plans for GI zoning that would meet those acreage thresholds.
That makes sense. And on the 400 feet, it's kind of like Goldilocks issue. 40, 400, or 500, just like the 20 or the 25. I mean,
and again, that gets back to that trying to walk that fine line of making sure that that the regulations we put forward don't essentially become a de facto prohibition of these uses. You know, if you go to 500, then you're 1,000 by 1,000, you're 1,000,000, and that comes out, you're already at 20-some acres before you've ever even cited the actual manufacturing facility. So 400, again, that's a football field and a third, and so again, being able to have parking in that, it doesn't totally render it useless. Sure. It just, your processing and manufacturing and storage areas have to meet that again so as not to hopefully be detrimental to your neighbors should a catastrophe come.
And I'll just speak for me, for myself, but I think the idea of being the same as a city and have the same regulation is important. And I agree with you on that. The answer to your question for me is, yeah, I think we ought to have it.
In fact, I concur with what Chairman Martin just said about the value of consistency. I do have one question about the subject matter. Is there a particular reason that lithium battery manufacturing was categorized with fertilizer manufacturing as the two uses that would be impacted by this?
Not a particular reason. We have Steve Smotherman on our staff as kind of our industrial expert, and we kind of turn to him for industrial related text amendments. He's been instrumental in our area plans as far as helping identify industrial areas. He works very closely in the industrial sector. He was actually economic development in High Point for a long time before he came to our staff. Whenever he was conducting the research, basically you had the explosive nature of the things that we were dealing with specifically related to Weaver and those subcategories. The only other category that rose to a level of an actual manufacturing activity that had a large quantity of hazardous materials, again, hazardous in a different way, but obviously hazardous to the environment. We just felt like it would probably be prudent to include that in this. As we were discussing it with the planning board and as we discussed it with the elected body, if there is a concern about that particular subset, it could always be removed and we would still have the same effect on the fertilizer manufacturer, again, which was the Winston Weaver impetus behind this. But again, through our conversations with Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., we have been entertaining folks who are interested in battery manufacturing as a result of the Toyota Megasite spinoff. And they're, when they have been having discussions with folks related to this, they have not raised any objection to the kind of standards that we have.
All right, then, I ask that in particular because, clearly I'm not a chemist, but I was not aware that that represented the same kind of explosive threat. That's a major component of current battery, particularly industrial or utility scale battery manufacturing, and I just wondered whether the threat level was similar enough to warrant inclusion in the same set of standards. Talking to our son, the firefighter, about let alone Chief Mayo, with the risks that were posed had Weaver gone up. We're talking in terms of blast radius,
And a large one.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you look at it compared to the West Texas fire explosion and the amount of material that was here compared to West Texas and the damage it did in West Texas back in the late 2010s, yeah, I mean, it would have been catastrophic. It's not even an appropriate word for what it would have been.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Chris?
Just one for the moment. When y'all were looking at this, did you look at the way that the manufacturing takes place in making fertilizer? The reason for that question is Weaver, they did two ways. They had a process that manufactured, call it ammoniated, and it's through a heat process. They mix primarily three parts of the fertilizer: nitrogen, phosphate, and potash. Very few of those left, very few. And so, but the other process is what they call blended. They take those same fertilizer products and they're blended. Like it's a mixing process, but it's not heat. And so, but I have no idea but I just wondered if you did, because there has been across the country in the southeast, several of those that's burned over a period of years, not just recently. Well, they wouldn't build back with that ammoniated process. That's there was one in if there is one active one in Greensboro now, I don't know where it is, but there was one down there just south of 40, and it burnt, 20, 25 years ago, and it used the same kind of process, but I don't know what caused that. But they're not, point of it is, they're not any that's put in place. I don't know of any that's been replaced with that ammoniated process. The ones that's in existence, they're still using them in some places. They said 30 years ago, maybe even more, that process would end in a short while, that it was more costly. Well, the ones of them that had those plants, they kept on using them, and then some of them they just stopped using. Other companies other than Weaver, I don't think they had but two. They had one in Norfolk, and I don't think it still exists. But I just wondered about.
To answer your question, no, we did not look at the type of process they use. We looked at the use. So again, under this scenario, we just looked at the use, and if they would fall under the use chemical, agricultural, fertilizer manufacturing, then it would they would be subject to this. Of course, if they were building today, they would be subject to, whatever regulations are in place, not only from the local zoning regulations, but the building code regulations and any federal regulations related to how they actually do what their process is. But the type of process wasn't part of our analysis.
Well, the primary part of fertilizers that's so explosive is nitrogen, and they had, I don't know how much it was, quite a bit stored in the immediate area there, and that's what the fire department was worried that would happen, that they'd catch on fire and explode. But anyway, I just wondered if y'all looked at the processes of manufacturing.
I'm not hearing a large concern with bringing this forward. So am I to assume that you would like for us to bring this forward?
Well, I would like for us, not today certainly, but I'd like for us to have information from our attorney before we make a decision.
Okay.
All righty. Any other further questions for Chris?
I was going to say, just to make sure I didn't muddy the waters unintentionally, yes, I agree. It should come forward. I had questions about the inclusion of the lithium battery manufacturing only, but please bring it forward.
All right, thank you.
Great. Jackie Copeland, you've had a long wait.
Yeah, been very informative wait also.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question? After partners, is there some way we can do the ARPA funding at the briefing?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that we could maybe move that to the briefing and give Jackie an opportunity to finish his. He's been here, not that Aisha and Jackie have not been here, but they're going to be here this afternoon.
And I might suggest in the future, we start these meetings at 9 o'clock.
That's a great suggestion. Instead of suggesting we be less winded. No, but it's been a great discussion, and it's been good so far. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you.
Jackie, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Happy New Year. If I hadn't spoken, said that to read you on that. Again, the new commissioners, my name is Jackie Copeland. I'm the Regional Director of Community Operations for Partners Health Management. We're the member care organization for Forsyth County. So as to get started, I kind of want to keep the focus on members. That's our goal, is to serve our members. We primarily serve two populations based off funding source. That's Medicaid recipients and those who receive state funds, meaning they may qualify based off not being uninsured for a certain level of services. So I want to go with you, go through quickly. I know I don't want to hold you all up from lunch either. Just hit some highlights for you. Just give you a look at the numbers we have served since looking at the period of December 1st, 2021, 1 month after we went live as your LME MCO through November 31st of 2022. We've served over 2,800 unduplicated Forsyth County Medicaid recipients. As I've talked in the past and shared with the commissioners regarding our Medicaid penetration rate, again, that's just the number of people who are in the Medicaid population who want to access behavioral health services, how we get those in for that first service. We're at a 25.7% penetration rate. Since the last time I reported to y'all, that's an increase of 2.4 percentage points. Next, we want to talk about, again, state-funded recipients. A little over 23, almost 2,400 individuals were served between the same time period. Next, want to talk about item that last meeting you all requested. Based off the last slide, is just what's the next step, if you will. Folks come in for that first appointment, what's happening after that? And so I think as you all shared that, one thing that came to mind that we thought I'd bring to you is our rates called our initiation rate and our engagement rate. Initiation rate, you're looking at the percentage of members with a second service or visit within 14 days of that first one. This is a national metric that the HEDIS group puts out that folks look at and aim at. So that's why we thought I'd bring that to you. And then I'll talk about the engagement, which is a percentage of members that have 2 or more services or visits since initiation within 30 days. So with that, I've broken that down for you based off, again, the calendar year, looking at, not calendar year, fiscal year 21, 22, looking at the third and fourth quarters, which would be the periods of January through June of 2022. And broken that down, you see, as far as mental health and substance use. Hate to read these numbers to you, but you get an idea of just how we're trying to get people, once they come in for that first service, trying to engage them in a couple of services. With studies have shown that if you can get a second service within 14 days, it really helps engage people and stay in long-term care. The substance, you see those, and so I won't read those to you, but around 40% on the substance use side would come in within 2 days, within second visit within 14 days. Having a long time ago been an adolescent substance abuse counselor, it's amazing you can get those people engaged, the success they have long term, but it's getting them engaged, and we've done serious things to do that. Next, I want to talk about engagement. Again, basically, after that first initial visit, trying to get them to have 2 or more visits within the next 30 days. You see the numbers around 45. We're trying to get at least 4 within a 45-day period. It just, again, helps engage them for long-term success, hopefully. You look at the mental health piece for third quarter, 33.3%. Fourth quarter, you see that drop off there. We're trying to really look and get an idea of what's occurring there. It's an anomaly that occurred or what have you. What we're doing in that regard for mental and for substance use, because it's the same type of drop off occurred for the substance use, is looking, working with our provider network. We do something, I think we've talked about this before here, but if not, I'll definitely share. We do a lot of value-based contracting with providers. Basically, it's a way of being performance-based in our approach and saying to them, we want to define what quality outcomes we want to see, and with that being in place, we then will put that in that contract to get those desired results. So it's one of the things that we're thinking of doing to try to work on that, because it is difficult nationally to have 4 visits within 45 days. Seems like a simple thing, but we have to also know this population, they deal with other social determinants of health, transportation. Even though we have transportation, public transportation here in Winston-Salem, the county doesn't have access to some in that all cases, and it's just a challenge. Also, other things, food, shelter, all those other things play a part in people really engaging, and then their community and support systems. They may not have that support, but we're looking at ways to really address that and be able to increase that, because we know how important it is for folks to really engage in services. Next way we serve our members is through Access to Care, which is our call center. We have a call center that's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, with mental health professionals and clinicians there. People can call in and get access to services. One of the many ways they can, some folks may want to call in to a provider directly and go that route, but this is one way we kind of track and make available to folks. Want to give you some numbers, because I think the last time I was here, we were changing over our system to manage those calls and the data portion of it. And so wanted to look back from July 1st of last year, 2022, through the end of last fiscal year, December 31st, 2022. You'll see we had over 300 mental health and substance abuse calls that came in. We also had 52 calls with folks with questions or needs related to intellectual developmental disabilities or traumatic brain injury. We had 28 that were emergent, meaning people call in, they were in a mental health crisis of some sort, or felt like they were, and we had to go and get them connected with the appropriate services. And then the lion's share of the calls we receive are our information referral only. You see 617. Those, because we're available, we have people call in who have various questions about resources in the community. So we keep a resource log that covers everything in Forsyth County that we have available to share information, such as housing, food, transportation, and also things like local support group. occurring? What are some other advocacy groups that they may want to reach out to and connect with? So we keep a very strong, a large log of that. And then two, we have members who call in because this isn't a warm line, but it does sometimes people call in because they're going through, want to talk through something. We try to help them and get them with the resource that they need.
Jackie, just
Yes,
look
sir.
at that chart. Something's a little odd. I mean, even if you take your full 1,011 calls, that's a 6-month period, say, 180 days. I mean, you're looking at less than 5 calls a day. Of course, I realize that's from here, and I'm sure the whole footprint of partners is your helpline.
Yes,
So,
it is.
And we're the largest county in that group. I'm just a little surprised that it averages only about 5.
Yeah.
That's for all calls, the information issues and so forth. It just struck me as a smaller number than I thought.
That's a very good question and point to look out. I'll go back and look more at that. Again, point out some of our calls, we also have other means for folks. For example, we have a member services line where that person can call it directly. It's available Monday through Saturday, typically 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. And so it's available for people to call in, and that may be where someone's already engaged in services. Family member wants to reach in that one. But very good insight, Dr. Martin. Thank you. Next, want to talk about what we do with care management. This is a team of people that work with some of the most vulnerable folks that we have, that we manage their care. Folks who may be in some type of hospitalization coming back into our community, long-term residential, just have a high level of need or acuity because of the interaction that they have. So families can choose to be in care management to help them. Looking at our numbers for the mental health and substance use group, you're looking at 128 members. Those who have intellectual development disabilities who chose to receive care management, it's about 579 members. This number is a lot different from last time that I came in and reported to you, and that's because some of the changes going on with the Medicaid transformation and Ontario plan implementation. Now what's happened is for mental health and substance use, there are other options beyond partners for care management. Right now, we're going to enter in a phase of tailored care management. I always want to say targeted, but tailored care management, and that's part which expands the access to Medicaid members to receive this type of service, care management. And so with that, we started in November, started the process up. Even though we don't start operating a tailored plan until April 1st, there was delay in December, and then the state pushed it back. And so with that, we started to ramp up because these members need that access to a care management, and so sooner the better. So with that, we're one of 31 other options that they can choose from. There are 2 groups. There are agencies that are considered care management agencies, and there are also advanced medical homes, officially advanced medical home plus. And some of the care management agencies already provide services. They are in our network, so they just beefed up their ability to provide tailored care management. But at the same token, you also have option for if a physician's group wants to manage the care of the patient that they have, they can choose to become a advanced medical home plus. So we have more options there. And we feel it's a good thing because it just gives members more access to ways to make sure they're monitoring their care, helping them deal with barriers and the like. Next, I want to talk a little offshoot of the IDD community, the Innovations Waiver. Those members are on the North Carolina Innovations Waiver. With that, we have 492 members here in Forsyth County that are currently receiving innovation services. They have a North Carolina innovation slot, and as part of that waiver, they can receive those services. We also have 773 individuals who are on the registry of unmet needs. They meet the qualifications, receive innovation services. It's just they're waiting for an innovation slot become available so they can do that. One thing last year, as you recall, the General Assembly approved additional slots across North Carolina. Forsyth County share was 39 of those. So we've been working to fill those slots for those people on the registry of unmet needs.
Could you help me understand?
Yes,
how
sir.
You got 773 people waiting, you got 39 new slots approved, and only 13 have been, only a third of those slots have been filled? I mean, aren't those numbers like, you're the next one on the list, I mean, it doesn't jump around on the list, does it?
No, you're exactly right. When folks are being assigned a waiver slot or on the registration of unmet needs, when they are on there, it's based off, we time and date stamp it. So when that person
why is it? I mean, it looks to me if the waivers were available on a Monday, it looks like in 10 days they'd all be filled.
Yes, that's what one would think, but we got a lot of factors considering this. One, some of these people have been on the waiver for, I think in Forsyth County, we have some folks who have been on since 2000.
Yeah, 20 years.
And so with that, some of them may choose, we had people who had 8 who said that they've declined the offer for a slot. So we
you get 773 on the list.
Yes. And
They say no,
39.
go to number 2.
Yeah,
Say
and
no,
that's,
go to number
and
3.
that's very important. That's what we've been doing. It's just also tracking people down because, again, you've been on since 2000, some people 20 years, and so sometimes we have to track them down. It's a process. We're going through tracking people down. 18 of them are in process and soon come off that list, get that number down. So yes, it's taking some time, it's taking some time, but we're working diligently. I have a team of people who are working on that.
That's the kind of information, the legislature gets information back, they say, well, then maybe this list is really meaningful. There really aren't 773 people at Forsyth County waiting. I mean, that strikes me. I understand finding folks, but I guess there's X number, days to find them. If you can't find them, then they've got to be getting services somewhere of some sort. So, I mean, if they're not in the network at all after X number of days, it looks like your policy would be, then we go to the next one. I mean,
and we follow,
money is just sitting there,
Yeah. Now, you raise a good point. Some of them, that 773 do receive other services. They're easy to find. 256 of them are in some other services that they receive, be it Medicaid or state-funded services. But just to assure you, the process that we follow is one that's dictated by the Department of Health and Human Services. So we follow the process that the state has laid out with that. I agree, it's not, we want to do it faster, but we're trying to bless you to do that. But I would definitely take that observation back to our team and share with them.
Chantel, aren't we hosting the DHHS director for some kind of public comment coming here like in a month?
We are. It is not public by DHHS yet, but they are coming. I actually told Jackie right before the meeting that they will be here. So yes, but once we're allowed to advertise it by DHHS, we absolutely will.
I mean, that'd be a great question. But maybe you need to talk about your process from a DHHS standpoint. By the way, that's on the night of the partners board meeting, by the way.
Yes, we were talking about that. So I think we're trying to make arrangements. I think our CEO is going to be here to be part of that audience. And I know that the commissioners, you all brought this topic up about just slots and the number of slots and how it's woefully the amount needed to really meet the needs of our families. So thank you for the advocacy you all have done, and we look forward to in March.
Thank you.
Next, I want to talk about some of how we are also operating our partners community model. And that is, we came into the community, want to be a part of the community. So we've been very active in the community on one of many fronts, but I wanted to share 2 of them with you, and that's training, and give you a look back of last calendar year, some of the trainings that we've done. We have 457 individuals attend a virtual training. I know I've heard from the commissioners we know that during COVID, yes, that was kind of the way of training, but there's a big push to have in-person training in a variety of places in the community. So we have embarked on that the latter part of last year, having 16 in-person trainings, and had over 247 persons in attendance at those trainings. And I want to give you a highlight about some of those. We're really trying, listening to you all's lead of spreading that out across the county. We've been great engaged with Winston-Salem State University in their counseling department. They have participated in we've trained them on suicide prevention model called Question, Persuade, and Refer. It's a national best practice model that's taught all over the country. We've shared with them to have that training. We did a monthly training started back in September, and right now we're hoping to continue that on into this year. Big piece of that is their staff, but we want to engage their resident advisors. Their RAs, get them trained also on this model. It just helps them because they interact the most with probably these students on a daily basis, so to be aware of and provide that training. And we've also reached out in partnership with some community partners, such as the Mental Health Association of Forsyth County and the North Carolina North Carolina Congress of Latinos, and we put together some mental health one-on-one training that occurred back before the holidays at Marvin United Methodist Church, where they brought in several families and we provided that training to them. And then we've also done trainings with other faith-based groups such as Samaritan's Purse. Also done trainings for mental health first aid with Parkway Church of Christ and some other churches, and also adult probation and parole. Just trying to see various ways we can get out there. And also we've done some training for some of the county government departments who want to be trained in mental health first aid, or as it's known to be a mental health first aider. So again, just a little bit of highlights from the trainings that we've been doing in the community. And the community events. Last calendar year, we participated in over 57 county events, interacted with over 5,400 residents. Big focus of that training is we've been in events such as Special Olympics, worked in some of the drug take-back initiatives that the Sheriff's Department has had. The Veterans Stand Down, we're actually participating in that on the planning committee for that. Green Tree Peer Center, working with them on a variety of ways. They see a lot of folks that come in that need various services to come into there for on a daily basis. We're there on a regular basis to interact with them and also try to get them needed service. And then one that happened last fall was Moji Coffee and More. They had a employer diversity seminar, really aimed at trying to attract employers to see what they do in their model of employing people with various levels of abilities, and talk about some of the barriers, try to help them understand and embrace the concept of offering them employment, meaningful employment. So we're excited to partner with them on that and be able to make sure that training took place. And that fits into one of the projects we have for this year. I thought I'd share some of the projects we have for this year. I won't go through all of them, but I'll highlight a few. And that first one is supportive employment services. Again, a way to get folks who have intellectual development disabilities or mental health and substance use, get them gain meaningful employment. So there's services available to help wrap up around them and help them do that. So we're really making a push this year to have more people take advantage of supported employment. Also, highlight the backup staffing study. As you're probably aware, as we all know, during COVID with the restrictions and then the economy afterward, as we've heard the school system talk about and the community college talk about hiring people, it's been stressful too for our provider network to get people, and unfortunately families haven't had the services they would have expected from backup staffing. So we're going to do a study looking at that this year in collaboration with providers and families and advocates, see how we can address that. Listening to providers, actually a provider is coming tonight to speak to your intellectual development advisory committee tonight and talk about kind of from their side of perspective. They're competing, as we heard earlier. These people, these typical workers don't get paid a whole lot of money, and at the same token, they're competing against big box stores, employers, big box stores, and other employers that can offer them more. And so they're constantly battling that. So we want to come up with a study and come up with a solution to try to help that, because they work with some of the most vulnerable members. We want to make sure that we can see how we can address that. And then finally, this I think you all going to talk about, a temporary office location. Partners right now is we have space over in the Highland Avenue Center at 650 Highlands Suite 300. As the staff have updated you on regard to some of the work you all are doing there in that building to add a upfit for the facility-based crisis plus the second floor construction. We worked with the county and saw a need to say maybe we need to make sure that services continue in that sort of space that we have. We're working right now, and I think the provider have that space, and we're going to relocate over to DSS in the Walter Marshall building there, some space they have for some of our employees. We just felt it's a way. Our big commitment is to members and sustainability, and we didn't want to interrupt them. We want to make sure we had little interruptions, and they are a place they know they can go to, and it only means that the only interruption they may have is they're going to see a provider. I think the provider is providing an outpatient service to be day-bound recovery service. All they have to do is walk down the other side of the building, a couple of doors, versus having to go to a whole new location. That could be very disturbing and really cause more problems. With that being said, I think that concludes my update to you all, and I'll be more than willing to try to answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions for Jack?
I just have a basic question because, of course, and it's nice to meet you. I know you already from being in the community, so it's good to see you here. I didn't know that you was connected to this organization, which is kind of connecting to my question around, I kind of put two and two together to see that this is an organization that supports behavioral health services. But is this a state collaborative of some sorts, or I'm kind of unclear about that?
Great question. Glad to kind of explain. We're kind of a unique type entity in a sense. We are a unit of regional government. We actually have a contract with the Department of Health and Human Services to manage the care. We don't provide services. We just have a provider network who provides that, but we manage that network for folks who have behavioral health services, who need behavioral health services, and intellectual development disabilities, brain disorders. We will soon, on April 1st, we'll also be managed on the Medicaid side. We'll be managing those who have significant behavioral health issues and mild to moderate health issues. We'll be an opportunity to really serve the whole person. So we manage their care in a sense. Again, through our provider network and also the other community events we do to try to engage people. Again, we're a little different. I don't want to say we're totally akin to what you'd see in the Council of Government strategy, but some of the concept, we serve Forsyth and 13 other counties in North Carolina.
I was wondering how Jackie was going to, that was the most complicated question in lots of ways that was asked today. Let's talk at lunch, and I'll tell you, there's like a lot of history to that question. Okay. So, yeah.
It's not just me, like, what?
It's the most complicated question there is, actually. So,
Yes,
Any other questions for Jackie?
Commissioners, thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Well, let's adjourn for lunch. And Jackie, I want to ask you one question. I won't waste everybody's time.